Okay, so once again, this is May 30th, 2013, and let's see here. There we go. Okay.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Before I introduce our distinguished guests, I would like to begin with a quote from the late astrophysicist Carl Sagan. "The illegality of cannabis is outrageous, an impediment to full utilization of a plant which helps produce the serenity and insight, sensitivity and fellowship so desperately needed in this increasingly mad and dangerous world." Carl Sagan. But by making cannabis illegal, we have instead turned it into a tool for violence, exploited by criminals and organized crime, spanning many countries. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a unique moment in history. The Berlin Wall of the prohibition of cannabis is weak, and it is crumbling as we speak. And just as happened in Berlin in 1989, the old guards who used to protect the wall of cannabis prohibition are laying down their weapons and walking away. What remains to be done is to safely and systematically dismantle the wall of prohibition and replace it with a system of laws, international agreements, regulations, and standards to ensure a prosperous and, above all else, safe cannabis industry. We are moving forward. The states of Washington and Colorado are leading the way. We have waited long enough for some sort of a green light from Washington, D.C., telling us that it is okay to proceed. In fact, the silence from our nation's capital has been deafening. We are moving forward with our plans to build a national and eventually international network of cannabis businesses spanning the production, processing, distribution, and retail of cannabis and cannabis-based products. Our network will span both the medical and the social use cannabis markets. As a first step in building this national network, as CEO of Diego Pellicer Incorporated, I am proud to announce that we have acquired the rights to the Northwest Patient Resource Center, headed by Mr. John Davis, who I will introduce shortly. We are also in the final stages of acquiring a smaller but equally professional chain of medical cannabis dispensaries in the great state of Colorado. With these acquisitions, along with other acquisitions in the works from California to Washington, we are creating the first national brand of retail cannabis. We have also created the first risk-mitigated investment vehicle for investing directly in this $100 billion industry, which is growing by the day. This is a crucial development which will enable us to expand our business model into new markets. Our expansion will be cautious and measured, as my colleague John Davis will discuss. Next, it is my pleasure and profound honor to introduce to you a man who has dedicated his life to transforming his country and our world into a more peaceful, loving, and prosperous planet. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the first freely elected president of Mexico, Señor Presidente.
Congratulations for that position. This state of Washington, has decided to lead a new path, a path to change the paradigm by legalizing medical and social use of cannabis. In Mexico, we welcome this initiative because the cost of the war, in the case of Mexico, is becoming unbearable. Too high for Mexico, Latin America, and the rest of the world. The impact in the economy, on income, on tourism investment, loss of talent, and above all, loss of hope, and 80,000 kids dead in the last 6 years. All this because our neighbor to the north represents such a gigantic consumer market. We must get out of this trap, and here is the opportunity. Now this group here is moving accordingly from words into plans, and from plans into action, and the action in the arena. To play the real game, this group must understand the need to make good, safe, and legal use of these new laws for the benefit of the people and the common good. I am here convinced of the need for change and the search for new avenues in this difficult and unresolved issue. I am here to witness a paradigmatic change. I have too many questions about the implementation of these new laws and regulations and how it will impact our countries and communities. This is an issue of strategic interest and concern around the world. This historic step today is to be observed and evaluated closely by all of us because it is a game changer. Fox Center is an acting think tank, but also an action think tank. That is why we are here.
All right, that's the heart of it. And just imagine, and I really encourage you to take a look at the whole thing. And thank you, James. And you know, just browse around a little bit. There's some really powerful stuff that's communicated there. But that became this threshold moment in the history of the legalization versus prohibition of drugs generally, and cannabis specifically. And it forced the hand of the Obama administration. It pushed its way onto the floor of the United States Senate for a public hearing. Thank you, Sarah. So imagine, Sarah says, incredible press conference. Imagine we do an even more incredible press conference on eradicating hunger, right? We had a super powerful press conference on something that you could argue either side of, with hunger. And I'll put this out as an international challenge. I want to see the person, I want to debate the person who will take the other side of this issue, that we should let hunger continue, right? Like Bill Gates. I'll call out Bill Gates. How about it, Bill? Remember when we talked about that some years ago? You weren't interested. How about now, right? Can I change your mind here? you know, that kind of thing. So we'll put out plenty of zingers. And how cool that would come from the Bill Gates of Bud, and they'll definitely reference our work with President Vicente Fox and other international leaders. And you know, we simply make it, we make the story irresistible, and part of that is going too far. Like, I intentionally went too far when I said, in answer to the question, you know, is this going to make a lot of money? How much money is it? I said, listen, we're going to mint more millionaires than Microsoft. I intentionally went too far, knowing that would go far. It went around the world, and then it ended up on the floor of the United States Senate. Literally, you can, I'll dig up the video, but you can watch the clip where I'm quoted, right? And so my point is, we have all the right elements to do this caliber, actually even bigger caliber, because, you know, that was big news in the state of Washington. It was big news in Mexico. You know, it was, you know, reasonably good sized news in all of North America. And, you know, attenuating from there. We commit to eradicating hunger all around the world. Now that's really big, right? And it becomes like a Pepsi challenge. Which side are you on, right? And we put that challenge out to everyone. Which side are you on? Do you think we should eradicate hunger, or do you think we should, you know, let it exist, unabated, uncontrolled, whatever, runaway hunger, huh? All right, that's what I had to share. We've got a couple more folks in the queue. We've got, up next is Nolan, followed by Jackie, followed by Miles, followed by Sarah. Go for it, Nolan.
Well, thank you for sharing that segment. I enjoyed watching that again, and would recommend recommend watching its entirety. I'm wondering about your previous work with community cafes, who that led you to connect with, that's also active in this effort. And I was looking at the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Ending world hunger being the second goal, second to poverty. And their goal is to end it by 2030. And I wonder what other initiatives there are. We're obviously not the only people that would like to see this world come about and are pushing to do so. So I'd like to, part of my inquiry is I'd just like to know more about what you know, Jamin, kind of in this realm. So that's the first part of my question. And then the second part has to do with there being differences between, like, ending hunger in Louisville is very different from other places we could be trying to end hunger in. And it seems like the challenges in the missions are very different in some sense, and I can only guess that I just don't know what's out there in terms of initiatives for solving hunger in places that are severely suffering. I'm wondering what would make
The last thing we heard you say was, last thing I heard you say was, I'm wondering what would make, and then you trailed off.
I'm contemplating the integration of all these different efforts that I am unaware of and can only assume exist, and I don't know to what extent they do. The United Nations has put out their own terms, which I imagine, or goals that I imagine they've come to through some fairly well-educated process, and they've determined. You don't think so? Okay. Well, I want to know why you think that.
Okay. All right. I'm going to answer your questions in the order in which you posed them. They are numerous and they are good. So I'll give my answers, and then it'll be Jackie, Miles, and Sarah are the next ones in the queue. So first of all, you asked about community cafes. So let me first show everyone a picture of a community cafe in operation. This was our first community cafe project to feed the town of Rosamond, California, a poor community in the Mojave Desert, and fed the whole town. Kicked off on their annual parade of lights, and it was just an experiment. Can we end hunger in one town? And the answer is yes. Now, this was part of a larger mission to create a compassionate economy where CCC companies donate all profits to eradicating hunger, are socially transformational in everything they do, and ecologically regenerative in everything they do. And so they would donate their profits to things like the community cafe, right? And this would stoke a virtuous cycle called the Hungerless Games, and where this whole thing would become a story and a movement, sparking demand in CCC products and services, leading to more funding for more community cafes until we just completely eradicate hunger. And the first CCC company is headed by my brother Takuya Sato of Sato Hemp, and the Hemperor of Japan. So that's the story, a little of the backstory behind the community cafes. So what happened out of all of that? Well, first of all, that was my big dream starting Diego Pellicer to begin with, dedicating 100% of my share of the profits to ending hunger. And with all the work that we did with President Vicente Fox, including internationally, just knocking down prohibition, including on other continents, as far away as South America, right? The criminal drug cartels became very threatened, and they in turn started threatening me and my family. And that's a long story, but bottom line, I retreated from the whole cannabis thing to save myself and my family. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to focus on these community cafes and ending hunger, which was the thing I wanted to focus on most anyway. Cannabis was just a tool. It turned out to be too deadly to really do it that way. So let me just go straight after this. Well, organized crime followed me all the way to the community cafes, where a different criminal organization, presumably hired by the criminal drug cartels, infiltrated, started threatening my life, very specific threats of physical mutilation, and they even got physically violent with me, and it just became a horrific nightmare. And so then I said, you know what? There's only one way that I'm going to be able to really conquer these forces of evil, and that's with collective superintelligence. And so then I focused once again on that, and here we are, right? And then, of course, Guy McPherson, yada, yada. So that's part of the bigger story. And what that led to. In terms of eradicating poverty, this is the pillar to eradicating poverty, right? This is the big one, right? If you're into soccer, there's nothing bigger than the World Cup. This is the World Cup of poverty, right? It's ending hunger. It's as simple as that. And, you know, I totally understand that we're not alone in this effort, but everyone who's tried before, in a word, and this may sound harsh, has failed. They haven't succeeded, right? So this is like, you know, whoever's trying to create the first microchip. You know, a bunch of people tried, and then, you know, one company in the Silicon Valley did it, right? So we are aiming to be that organization, that movement, that super intelligence to end hunger. It's as simple as that. We're at bat, and we're about to take our swing, right? Why do we say we're going to hit a home run where everyone else at bat has failed? Well, timing. Timing is perfect, because now we need to end hunger not just for the poor, starving kids a couple continents away, but to save you. Yeah. If you want to survive this, we need to defeat the whole pandemic. And even though you don't necessarily like the idea of writing checks to feed kids you don't know, that's, you know, your choice, whatever, right? I don't care. I don't know what part of hell you think you're going to be comfortable in later on, but that's up to you and Satan to figure out, right? I'm sure they've got a nice spot for you. But anyway, but now that it's not just somebody else's kids, but you and yours, right? You might want to support this, right? So timing is everything. We've also now got the raw materials of collective superintelligence. We've got the raw materials of the butterfly. We're still kind of in this gelatinous state, right? A little bit punch drunk from too much, you know, stir craziness at home and not being able to do all the things we used to do. Our lives are radically different, but that's a perfect state to be in for what we're doing here. So everyone's mind is totally open. Everyone's hungry for solutions. Bill Gates says a vaccine is a year away. What do we do in the meantime? Right? What we do in the meantime is we pull, not to toot my own horn, but we pull a page out of the Shively playbook that I just showed you with that press conference. That was over a year away from us being able to sell any weed, right? So in that vacuum of silence, of 18 months of silence, I jumped in and lit a cherry bomb, and it just went bam, and everyone's ears were ringing. It's like, well, what happened? President of Mexico? Duh. Right? And this gets to the second most important principle in marketing. The first one was, it's better to be first than it is to be better. The second most important principle in marketing is this one. If you want to get into somebody's mind, and in the end, Nolan, our success or failure boils down to one thing. Will we be able to penetrate people's minds and get them on board saying yes, cheering for us, volunteering, donating money, etc.? The battle to win is in the mind. It's not on some battlefield. It's not in outer space. It's not, you know, it's not in any of those places. It's in one place, and it's the mind. Are you with me on that? If we win the battle of the mind, then we win. If we lose the battle of the mind, we lose. That's the battleground. Okay. So in order to win the battle of the mind, here comes in the second most important principle in marketing, which is that if you want to get into somebody's mind and establish a favorable position with an idea, a brand, anything, a piece of news, anything, right? You cannot worm your way in little by little right? My dad used to come up to me and he'd take his finger and in slow motion, he'd go, bore a hole, bore a hole, bore a hole, bore a hole. And he'd get closer and closer to my belly button. Well, that made me giggle and everything, but in marketing, it doesn't work that way. You cannot worm your way in little by little. There's only one way in marketing. And that is, you have to blast your way in. And that press conference with President Vicente Fox blasted its way in like no drug policy expert with 3 PhDs from Harvard had ever been able to do in decades of whining and complaining about it. So, who do you want swinging the bat for you? Bottom of the ninth, bases loaded. Jamin Shively or some professor at Harvard with 3 PhDs? I know where my money's at. All right. So in this case, the blasting into the mind, it's both local and it's planetary, because this was a local effort. State of Washington legalized cannabis before anybody else. First state where possession was legal before anyone else. Colorado, you name it, Washington. So we were first, and we were sexy because it was Jamin Shively, former Microsoft executive with this super badass great-grandfather, you know, building a brand after his legacy, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it was just like, whoa, can't make this stuff up. And so they gobbled it up. So it's got to be a sexy story. It's got to be local. Timing has to be perfect. And it helps to bring in some big guns. We have all of those ingredients. We don't lack a single thing in the case of Louisville, Kentucky, for example. Other cities may be equivalent to Louisville in terms of their strategic meeting of all the filling of all the check boxes, but I'll just use Louisville as an example. With the mayor of Louisville, and I'm presuming he'll be in, how could he not be? Right? Presuming he's in, he'll be in 100% all or nothing. We're committing to this. He'll bring in a bunch of pillars, right? Not to consult with them on it, but to say, you need to get your ass in here, right? And so all these pillars will be lined up. That will be the equivalent of the President Vicente Fox press conference. And we'll see if we can get the Pope, you know, connecting via Zoom, right? I know that, that, what's his name? Scott Miles. Who's our friend in Hawaii? Scott. What's his first name? It escapes me at the moment.
Stuart.
Stuart Scott. Thank you. You know, Stuart Scott's going to be pulling all his strings to support us with all his international connections. We'll have international leaders and religious leaders and stuff up the kazoo, just like we stacked the deck for the President Vicente Fox conference. Listen, when you've got a lead like President Vicente Fox, you got to have your lead, you know, big fish, right? To lead the school, so I don't get in hot water with Sarah again, right? So you need your lead big fish to lead the school of fish. In our case, it was President Vicente Fox back in 2013. In 2020, it'll be probably be the mayor of Louisville or the Pope, or, you know, just, you know, the biggest fish we can get, right? And so, but in this case, because the table is so well set, right? I think this is going to appeal to pretty much everyone. And Priya has demonstrated it in the medical community. And of course, ending hunger in Louisville, to get to your next question, ending hunger in Louisville is different from, you know, other parts or other places around the world. Absolutely. But we can end hunger on a budget of less than $100 billion per year, right? Which is 2% of the profits from the old economy, a bigger slice of the current economy, but still less than 10%. We can totally do this. And, you know, people are now used to having their lives turned upside down. Another 10% tithe, you know, I don't think they're going to bat an eyelash, especially if it'll solve it. If it'll solve it, it'll feel like a small price to pay, right? And that's the promise. We're going to eradicate hunger and pandemics simultaneously and holistically, period. That's the headline. We don't go any deeper than that. Simultaneously eradicating hunger and pandemics, right? And
I like your I like your little chipmunk buddy there, Jamin.
What about the chipmunk?
He's down there. He's
Oh.
behind you there on the left.
Oh, yeah.
On your right.
That's our resident vegan chipmunk, and we're proud to feed him vegan foods. Anyway, thanks for pointing him out. We talk to each other and everything, and then the crows look on. The crows are fascinated because they're the most skittish. But anyway, got such a great relationship with all the wildlife here. It's such a blessing. But anyway, so look, the bottom line is we've got a story that's going to just spread exponentially, and it's going to bring the world into conversation. Even if it only brings 1% of the world into conversation, that's 75 million people. That's going to take a pretty big Zoom conference room, right, to hold that. No, it's going to be a whole freaking conference with a gazillion breakout rooms to handle all that, right? And I know just the people to tap to make that happen. The Collective Intelligence Block Party, right? Ladies, you ready for some breakout rooms in the Divine Feminine? We got a lot of people coming last time I checked. All right. Okay. Silas, John, etc. We ready for more people on the Hunger Project? Yep. And so now people are going to have a place to land. We're going to put out, I hope this doesn't tick off Sarah. I'm just playing with you, Sarah, at this point. But we're gonna put out a dog whistle, right? That only the dogs can hear, right? Okay, thanks, Sarah. But I'm going to use it anyway because I don't know of like an ostrich whistle or something like that. But we're gonna blast a dog whistle so that basically only the freaking awesome people are going to hear it. Let's call a spade a spade. It's an awesome person's dog whistle, right? Where basically people like us come in droves and say, I love it. I'm in. Silas has some words for us. I'm going to read from Silas. Great discussion, everyone, and thank you for all that you are doing. I have to get going to prep for the Climate Healers Health Conference tomorrow. Don't you just love how Silas is always up to something big? I just love it. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, Silas, we love you so much, and thank you so much for being here and leading the way. All right. So, in honor of Silas,
I'm just going to jump in, before he goes, if he might hear this. So, now don't take me wrong, Jamin.
But we are recording.
Okay.
And we've got Jackie in the queue next, who's been in the queue for a while. You're in the queue right after her. So, and if it's burning, but I think you were trying to talk to Silas. Anyway, if I'm not,
yeah, I'll just ask him to catch the recording, and because I'd like him to consider what I'm thinking.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so and then finally, why not the United Nations? Holy crap! It's a Vitamix blend of the most corrupt institutions on the planet. What do you expect them to come up with? Garbage in, garbage out, right? To put it in layman's terms, as we'd say out in the country, the UN sucks. They suck. UN, you want to stop sucking? Join us. I should probably edit that out, huh? What for? Look, freedom of speech. Come on, admit that you suck. And then come to us for suck therapy. Okay, now I definitely got to edit that one out. All right. I'm going to blame it on Nolan. Nolan, you shouldn't ask such questions. Okay. Next, and Nolan, did I answer your questions? You got any responses that you'd like to put on the table?
I'll keep thinking about it. I have some. I have some more thoughts, but I want other people to get what's on their mind out. So.
All right, awesome. Okay, next up we got Jackie, followed by Miles, followed by Sarah. Go for it, Jackie, and thanks for your patience.
Okay, so it's changed so much because of the conversation, so I'm just going to try to keep my thoughts together. So I apologize if I'm scattered. Originally,
Let her rip. Let her rip. Go.
Originally, I wanted to respond to the idea about the pandemics, about how we're never going to eradicate like pandemics. And what first came to me was Dr. Greger did an incredible video about how the last, I don't know how many pandemics will all come from animal agriculture. But also Dr. Ornish speaks about how our health does not only come from the way we eat, but also from our connection to other human beings, from our connection to self. So he addresses health and immunity, mind, body, and spirit. And I think that's something that we also have to push, that it's not just about boosting your immunity through the foods that you're eating, but if you can help people understand that they are taking an initiative to release themselves, to liberate themselves from poverty as well. Like I love we were talking about the poverty, because eradicating hunger, you're right, is eradicating poverty. How many of us from these communities spend all of our money on hospital bills, pharmaceuticals, high rent, our children are sick. If we're sick, we can't go to work. We have low paying jobs that we don't get time off. So a lot of our health has to do with our poverty. So I think if we talk to individuals from that perspective, really helping them understand that this is a liberation on all fronts. Let me get my thoughts together because so many people said so many amazing things. So T. Colin Campbell, the author of the China Study, his son, Nelson Campbell, has this initiative where he does plant pure pods, and they go into communities and they provide the free food. And this is all vegan food, and it's to promote health. And they usually go into like churches, and there's a documentary about it. But I was also thinking about how I can work on a micro level by spreading this message about renewing health. How about homeostasis back to self, mind, body, and spirit, and that will create that sovereignty and create that ability to see clearly. And I guess what I'm saying is, I guess what I'm saying is that my contribution to this is about restoring health and reminding all of us that we don't come from nature. We don't have to respect nature. We are nature. We are nature, and we should have a righteous indignation that we are being severed from nature, being severed from ourselves, that we want to be healthy, and we should have that righteous indignation that you are taking my health away from me. You are taking my resources away from me, and you're keeping me ignorant to what is best for me. And I have a right to restore homeostasis to myself, to my children, to my loved ones, and my community. And that is a human right that you are taking away from me. And therefore, since I learned and I can do that for myself, we have an obligation to go back and help people see that their human rights are being taken from them. And I don't know, I guess that activated me, I guess, about there's this thing, this separation from nature, and that we are nature, and the pandemics affect us because the comorbidity that we make ourselves vulnerable. That is what the whole food plant-based opportunity is about. It's about restoring our health and our immunity so that when pandemics come, so that when viruses come, if they're not meant to restore health to us, that we can fight them off. And I don't know, I'm sorry that I'm all over the place. It was just so many people said so many different things that were such good points that it just brings me back to that restoring health as a human right, to being able to, once we restore health, to then address the poverty, to address everything that Bernie was saying about universal health care. I mean, we can eliminate all of those concerns by just feeding people healthy food so that they can make choices for themselves, so that they can make informed, calculated choices for themselves and restore homeostasis, mind, body, and spirit for themselves.
Beautiful. With this collective, and all of us at home, we're unleashing this insane collective intelligence that we never knew we always needed. And now it's here. What are we going to do? Put that animal back in the cage? No. We're going to let it run. Beautiful, Jackie.
I'm sorry, one more thing. I keep thinking about we have forgotten who we are, and we have to help remind people who we are. And those of us that are storytellers, I think we hold a moral obligation to be able to work on ourselves, to connect soul to soul, heart to heart. My higher self is speaking to your higher self. And through that language of love and truth, those who are ready and ripe to receive the message will. We're here to influence and guide and support. We're not here to change. So those of us that are resistant to it, oh well, but I believe wholeheartedly that our true nature, because we are nature, is wants to restore health. And if we deliver that in a soulful, loving way, we will reach the hearts of people that are longing to be seen, to be recognized, not to be judged, but to be supported. And I think that's the message that we have to relay to this. This is a loving, loving message, and you don't even know that you've been taken advantage of, and that's not okay. It's not okay.
Beautiful. Wow. I can just hear you saying that and millions of people listening. Because you're going to be right there front and center. So,
you know, I think what's most profound is, especially as a mother, when I realized the harm that I was inflicting on my children through love, that I was harming them, that I was sending them to an early grave because I thought I was loving my children, but I was loving them to death. That conversation with parents, that resonates. When you say you're loving your kids to death and you don't even know, how dare you? How dare you infiltrate my love for my children? How dare you?
wow. Wow. Jackie, write your speech. Because my prediction is we're going to do this press conference sooner than most of us think. All right. And you have the whole collective intelligence to support you, to review drafts, to even work on whole parts of it, right? Just ask and you shall receive. All righty. We got Miles, followed by Sarah. Thanks for your patience, Miles. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. I was getting actually teary-eyed. And the reason for it is I look out my window and I see these little kids, you know, they're 5 years old.
It's all right. It's all right. If you're going to cry for something, make it count. And this counts.
Excuse me. So anyway, kind of being very logos oriented, you know, marketing, and you know, I had my 5 success factors for a business, and we're talking about, you know, how we can serve food for the people. But as you said, it's really for not, we got to remember this is an emergency, and you know, for me, this whole vegan thing is really spiritual. So, you know, 25 years ago, I was like, okay, I should have some kind of spirituality. So I went, you know, kind of shopping, kicking tires, well, you know, because there's this spiritual void, right? Anyway, that's a whole other discussion. But as I said earlier, I've sort of realized, oh yeah, this is an illusion, and that really the people who think they're sheep, like these good Christians, my concern for them is they're actually the goats. And I guess it's goats because, you don't turn your back to a goat because he's going to hit you or whatever. So yeah, pardon my reference to animals this way, but that's apparently it's in Matthew 25. So anyway, what I'm thinking is we can't lose track of the eros side of this, and that maybe this app needs to be just rolled out. And if you subscribe to the spirituality of vegan, then that this is an essential turning point in humanity's history. That the app is just out there for vegans to say, yeah, you want to buy anybody a meal, you're welcome to use this app and get a meal to somebody and say, I'm sending you this meal because there's an important spiritual message behind it that I think you need to hear, and if you think you're saved by your particular interpretation of the Bible, you may be seriously wrong, if you don't stop to think about really what were the virtues of Jesus Christ. And it's not, oh yeah, you just got to go and get yourself dunked or sprinkled with water or whatever. That there's a greater expectation, especially for men. So in conclusion, we can't really get too hung up in this and thinking we got to package this app and market it and kind of like usual business as usual tactics, but actually consider it as a spiritual obligation. And as I'll just conclude, this whole concept of being vegan is really a very high spiritual bar for me, but for everybody, because this world we're living in is so counter. We are in this illusion, and we don't have much time. So package this app as vegans. This message got to get out. We need a vegan world by 2026. This is an emergency. Buy a meal for somebody, and part of that is, I'm buying you this meal, but there's a message I want you to pause and maybe even watch a video or whatever. But we've got to stop the industrial abuse of animals, and we have to start reforestation ASAP, because the number one climate change, ecological, and pandemic culprit is industrial animal abuse, and killing really absolutely any animal is a existential threat. I'm going to leave in about 5 minutes, but thank you very much. It's been a very long time sitting here, and I need to get attending to some other things. So thank you.
Sure.
Amazing.
Miles, thank you. Wouldn't be the same without you, brother. So thank you for making it amazing. Thanks to everyone. Heck yeah. All righty. Yeah, and really awesome. And just come back anytime. Later tonight, early in the morning, we'll be here. We'll be here. All righty. Let me just make sure I'm keeping track of all the hands. All right, we've got next in the queue is Sarah, followed by James, followed by Jackie. Go for it, Sarah. What do you think of all this?
It's exciting. I wanted to ask you, and you probably might have answered this just a little bit, but my question is, what world leaders do you think would need to come to this press conference? And because it is world, like, for instance, if we had Nelson Mandela, you know, which he's not around, but if we had him, so somebody like the top person from India. So I was thinking, like, would you invite world leaders? And if this can't be in person, how, because it's definitely different when you have a press conference in person, I think. How would you conduct the press conference? I guess would you do a Zoom press conference, or Zoom? Okay.
It'd be a hybrid. It'd be in person, and we'd have giant screens there. So it's going to be a hybrid. Back to you, Sarah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. And Jamin, I really think you should be the messenger, because Dr. Rao is incredible in his development of all of this. But I think because your voice is, you can hear it a little bit better, decibel wise. But are you going to cut your hair, Jamin, for the press conference?
If the collective intelligence tells me to shave my head, I will shave my head. But
I wouldn't say shave it, but I think I'm not judging you at all with your hair. I'm just asking you because unfortunately we live in a really, unfortunately, when people even have a tattoo, you know, it's controversial, right? So I'm thinking if you're bringing such a broad subject that is going to really work, which it will eradicate, and it's going to help with the, you know, obviously with what Jackie said, it's true. I mean, like, people are impoverished because of food scarcity, and because they're eating this food right now, most people, 97%, are eating food that's making them sick and keeping them sick, and they're stuck, and they're in these communities and neighborhoods where they're stuck. They don't see a way out, and they just become, unfortunately, victims. It's when people say, don't you care about humans? It's like, yeah, we do actually care about humans. I feel like this is the answer. Like, yes, we care about humans so much that here's the way to heal everybody. Like, this is it, you know, like, we're going to feed you and heal you. And that's, you know, I know it's going to scare big farm and big ag, but my question, really my main question, underlying question to this is, how do you get somebody from the government to accept this? Because I feel like this could wipe out, this could actually be, you could actually flip it on the government and say, hey, you don't have to have billions of dollars to give to people in food stamps anymore. The government's going to save all of this money. We don't have to give you these EBT cards to use, because now there's going to be so much food. They're not even going to, you have to make that. I know that you know this already, but you have to make it so big that you have to say, look, we're not even going to need food, whether it's true or not. You just have to say it, like, look, you're never going to, you know, we're not going to need food stamps anymore, federal government. And see, that's going to stop the bailouts, because the reason why all these bailouts are happening is because people are afraid that there's not going to be any food for them. And so therefore the word gets out, and then the government is told, and then the president has to give a statement, which he doesn't even know what he's saying. He's just regurgitating everything that somebody else tells him. So somebody may have said, spray Lysol on your teeth, and that'll help if you're biting into food that might have coronavirus on it, right? But that may or may not be true, but people might believe it. So you have to come out with something that people can really believe, you know, because people get used to their processes and their you know, people don't like change, as you can see, because we don't even like this lockdown. That's a change, right? But we're starting to kind of get used to it now, right? Because we've been in it, we're easing in it, and now Bill Gates is easing us into, oh, well, you know, we're going to have a vaccine. So he's kind of prefacing us with saying, oh, we got to wait another year, but he didn't really say it. He just said we have to wait another year for the vaccine. So he's kind of delivering an underlying message of, you know, his evilness is going to be like, you know, while he's showing Microsoft commercials on TV, which is even more evil. So, I mean, we all know it's planned, but how do you get to the point where you can get government officials to buy into this, where the government participates, even though I personally don't like the government. I think we should have no government like that, no system. We should just have processes, and, the government sucks. But because so many people are brainwashed into believing that the government is going to help them because they are already receiving government, and you've got unemployment, you've got these bailouts, even though they say it's stimulus, it's just a bailout. There's no stimulus. Stimulus means that the economy is going great and everything's going well. That's what a stimulus means. You're stimulating the economy. But this is a bailout. This is like giving us a $1,200 check to say, or it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on your heart exploding. It doesn't work. So we have to find like this solution, which I wouldn't say solution, but this is has to come out with a better word, but this is a way to definitely eradicate world hunger. It's definitely going to work. And it has to be told like that, to people in a very simple way. But, when you get all those questions, well, what about this or what about that? I'm giving you the questions that will obviously come up. Like, what about, if I just can go to the grocery store with my food stamps, but then they run out at the end of the month, or they run out at the 15th or whatever. Maybe you've got a couple more weeks and you're like really hungry. Oh, don't worry, just get on this app. But I think this app should really replace everything that people have been accustomed to, even though it's going to take them a while to, just like it takes a while to get them off the dairy and the meat because they're addicted. It's like that. They have to get off of it's almost like the government is breastfeeding people and they just can't get off of it because they're addicted to it. Because I've seen that in my own life, where you get on like something, or you receive something and then you just expect it, right? So we have to tell these people, okay, don't worry about all of that. You don't have to expect food. You're going to have so much food, you're not even going to have to worry about it. So really, like you said, it's all about the mindset. You have to get into the mindset of what these hungry people are thinking. And remember, they're not even thinking straight anyway, because they're mostly eating meat, dairy, and eggs. So they're not even in their own right mind. So it's almost like you have to tell them that there's a cause and effect. Like, okay, here's what we're giving you. And it's almost like you have to tell them there's no strings attached. Like it's almost like good karma, but you don't even want to use that because, like you said, I mean, there's so many religious people, and there's so many just, people in the world in general that have so many different thoughts and mindsets, that it's almost like, how do you get into that mindset of the person that really is hungry, that person in India, that family in India? You have whole neighborhoods where I've been to Africa, I've seen remote parts of Africa where they are really hungry. And we're not talking about, because I think a lot of people might think that this is about, giving people like UNICEF, like rice and lentils and stuff like that. But it's more than that. It's giving them good health, but in a way I don't even know if you want to say it's giving them good health, because then they might think, oh, you're trying to make me healthy. Don't try to do that. It's almost like it's no strings attached, where with the government, it's always strings attached. You have to fill out paperwork in order to get this card. You have to fill out unemployment in order to get this money. You have to do this and that. And, it's like, it needs to be something that is just not, it's for the average person that doesn't even have an education. Because you've got to remember that people that are hungry and impoverished in the world, in all of these places, when you talk about world hunger, you have to remember that they just want food. They're not thinking about anything else. Maybe they have to do their laundry, or they have to walk to get water. But they just want food. And then once you nourish them, then their whole body becomes nourished, and then their brain becomes nourished. And then they can also be a steward. And that's how you start eradicating hunger, is that's where the domino effect is. That's just my personal thought on it, is that it should be, even though it's super complicated within our VCI community, because we're asking a lot of questions, because we have to, you have to, when you're presenting it, present it in such a simple way that whenever they have any questions, you just have to have that answer, which I think you will, Jamin. I think that since you've done this before in so many aspects of the world with bringing stuff to light, you have to kind of educate. Just have to answer the media or answer whoever's asking you questions. But the real people that are really going to benefit from this, those are the people that just need the straight up, hey, we're going to solve world hunger, and don't worry, like, anymore, you're going to have food every single day the rest of your life. And that just needs to be really constitutional, like in the, I guess, explanation of how you're going to roll this out, because you don't want to be in a press conference for hours and hours of, well, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. You just want to be saying your press conference, and then after that, that's where everything, then tons of articles come out, and then they do interviews or whatever, and who cares what they all say. I mean, the whole point is just feeding people, and then the proof is when you go and interview them and you show the actual results. So it's one of those where when the internet was created, right, we didn't know. I was typing a paper at my grad school, right, on a typewriter, and then all of a sudden the internet came out, right? But we didn't know, it just came out. So it's almost like that. It has to be really seamless, but really innovative, like quick. But I think that we should roll this out, like I said, I think before May 15th. But that's just me, because I think the longer you wait, like you said, someone's already coming up with this idea. They just haven't put it out there yet, right? I think that's really what I wanted to say. I'm sorry it was so lengthy. I really only had one question about who would you bring to the press conference.
No. Brilliant stuff. I mean, I love your thinking. Totally agreement. Looks like Jackie's got to follow on. Go ahead, Jackie.
I'm so glad that Sarah brought up the breastfeeding, because at my other talks, I always bring up how it is my experience and my perspective that humanity is infantilized. We have been purposely infantilized. We have a suppression of our consciousness, and we're the only species on the planet that continues to nurse throughout our lives. As a matter of fact, it's compulsory nursing. We're forced to nurse. And that oppresses our higher thinking, our critical thinking. But the thing is, all institutions do that. There's an assault on the raising of ourselves, on our development. I mean, it's in all institutions. It's in government, it's in our parenting, in our medical community, in our religious institutions. It's in our parenting, where we are always suppressed. Our ability to raise ourselves to higher thinking is not present. And I think it was so important that you said that, because the message that I say is that I was not allowed to love myself to my greatest ability. That was the government and the medical institutions and the medical schools took that away from me, my ability to love myself to my full ability. And I love when Jane is always talking about, when she says, when people say, well, why do you care so much about the animals? Because she loves humanity. Because she loves humanity, because I love you. Why are we doing this? Because I love you more than you're being allowed to love yourself. And I know what that's like. I know what it's like. And so when you start feeding yourself foods that are conducive to your health, that are natural to your body, you do start clearing up the way you think. You do raise yourself. You cleanse yourself of toxins. You cleanse yourself, and you are able to connect with spirit, to connect with your heart, to connect with your soul. And that's another human injustice, a social injustice. You are oppressing my ability to connect with myself, and therefore connect with others. So I think the message is about love. This is about loving all of humanity. This is about loving Mother Earth. This is about loving ourselves. And no one has a right to impede my ability to align my thoughts, my beliefs, and my actions. And that's been being done to me without my consent.
My goodness, such wonderful sharing. Ah, it's so clear this is going all the way. It's just like so clear. All righty. We've got James, followed by Paige. And thanks both of you for your patience. It's been a little bit of a long queue. James, you ready for us, brother?
No, I don't think I was in the queue, Jamin. That must have been from earlier on, unless it's the other James that was there.
Oh, no. Anyway, my bad. And Paige, welcome. And how you doing? And love to hear your thoughts. And you're on mute, and you're also driving, and safety first, so don't worry about us. Worry about...
I pulled off.
Great.
Hey, y'all, can you hear me okay?
Yes, just fine.
Okay. Wow. Well, this has been incredibly enlightening. And Sarah, kudos to you. I mean, what the fuck? The government is breastfeeding the public. And here's the thing I so appreciate about that message, Sarah Siegel. You're always laying it out so freaking easily to understand, is that, so if you're looking pumped out, it is palm of their hand. You guys get that, right? I mean, it's right here. Everybody is freaking out, scared as fuck, got the this, got the that, and now, guess what? Whatever's going to come after this, the majority of people are going to just line up and comply. Do you see what I'm saying? So here's where we need to galvanize as a community. So I know there are people, hang on one second. Hang on, I was getting a call. There are vegans out there right now, you guys, who are saying, fuck the system, we're not going to wear a mask, and we're going to go out there and protest. Which, here's the thing, if we do that, we're buying into their bullshit. I'm sorry for all the swearing, but so in other words, if we do that, we're actually, it's counterproductive to our movement. We need to, I say, we need to comply right now, build our army stronger with the masks on so we can move forward fast when the quarantine lifts. In other words, do our homework, do our research, get the conversations on the same page, all of us, and then galvanize and move forward as a troop on the same page. That's what I feel. So, in other words, I think you get what I'm saying. So, I say, I agree. I think it's bullshit. I think the government, there's a lot of these conspiracy theories that I think are real theories. And working with Jane Velez Mitchell closely and listening to her content, we have this to celebrate right now. They banned carriage horses, horse-drawn carriages in Chicago. That just came through. So right now on Jane Unchained, she's doing an interview, Chicago, New York, so you can go on and see it later. You don't have to watch it live. So I say keep watching the Jane Unchained news. She keeps coming out with amazing. The whole network is like on fire with really important information that we need to hear. Send it to your pre-vegan people. Put it on your page, if you will. And that's what I think. So the more we have strength in the conversations that we're going to be putting out and are putting out, and that we can align to go forward with, the more power we're going to have moving forward. Those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening, y'all. You're all amazing.
Hey, Paige. Hey, Jamin,
Yes.
can you explain to Paige what we were talking about so she knows what we're talking about with the app? Because I don't think that she knows that we're talking about the app. And the press release, because Paige, it's okay, you missed the press release that Jamin showed us, that he had a press release with the Mexican president, and when cannabis got legalized or whatever, all that stuff. But that we're trying to do this release of this app with a press conference, and we're asking him questions of who should come to the press conference, and like, because Dr. Rao has the app, it's coming out at the end of the month. It's really exciting, but we're not telling it to the public yet, obviously, because we have to get the app out first, because it has to, it can't be told to anybody, but it's basically be about eradicating world hunger. So that's what it is. It's like an
Okay.
app, and basically it's going to eradicate world hunger, which it's really going to work. It's just that, you know, we have to get everything fine-tuned, I guess you could say that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure you knew what was, because it's been, first Will Tuttle talked, and then Dr. Rao
Yeah.
came on, and we've had, it's like, because it's a 24-hour vegan collective intelligence
Awesome.
block party. So it's
Yes.
basically we have like special guests. So
Awesome.
what I was thinking is like, we'll have like Jane as a guest one time, or she
Yeah.
can come in at any time in the 24-hour period. But we don't really probably want to tell Jane about this yet, because we want to make sure it comes out first with, you know, food healers, because now we have corona healers, climate healers, and food healers. So this is food healers in I guess conglomeration with Jamin and Dr. Rao and Jackie and everybody that's in climate healers. And we're just trying to figure out how to release this and how to make sure that we get the right people, and make sure that people understand like obstacles or whatever that could be, people could meet out. You know, everybody's going to ask questions about it. So it's like, you know,
Yeah.
that's what I was mentioning, like the food stamp program and, you know, that kind of stuff. Like we can really help everybody. It's not just we're helping people that are hungry. We are, but it's also helping them in every part of their life become, because basically what it does, it puts everybody on this, to me, it puts everybody on the same playing field. Is right now we're not even on the same playing field. Nobody's on the same playing field, because, you know, some people can go buy food and some people cannot. Some people can buy food with EBT. Some people, you know, like I said, that's just really what it, I think because of the financial system and the way it's worked up until now, and it's still continuing, is that this is kind of like a way to put, to me, it's a way to kind of get people more on a level playing field, because of food scarcity. But most people think that food scarcity only affects people that are really hungry, like starving people and children, but it affects everybody, every single person in the world it affects, I think, unless you're Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates. He don't care about no food, he cares about vaccines. All right.
Mhm. Okay.
What an amazing conversation, everyone. And Sarah, I just have a comment about, you know, like keeping it quiet and all that. You know, we're recording this meeting with intent to publish, and also
Sorry, Jamin.
sorry. What are you sorry about, Sarah?
Oh, I thought that because I was cross-talking with Paige, but I just wanted to give her like a little bit of an update, because since it's a 24-hour call, it's kind of hard to get.
No. You said everything. Yeah. You said everything perfectly. There's nothing.
Okay, sorry.
To take back. Nothing at all.
Yeah. I know. I just don't like to cross-talk.
No. I have zero complaint with anything that you said. So if I said anything to the contrary, I apologize. What I did want to say is, since I thought you were asking a question, I just wanted to answer a question that I thought you were asking.
Yeah, I do. I want you to answer my question about EBT food stamps, about government officials coming to the conference, just like world leaders, just like when you had President of Mexico. I think this is where Paige would really be beneficial to hear about this, because it's very exciting. I mean, the press conference that you showed to me was very exciting, because that's when I was like, oh, maybe Jamie should cut his hair for the press conference, because people are very judgy, you know, because they, you know, you never know.
Yeah, totally got it. So in terms of, you know, like food stamps and whatnot, you know, as we build momentum, we could even ask the government, listen, take all those billions that you're dumping into food stamps and just give it to us. We've proven that we know how to manage it in a way that also eradicates pandemics. So anyway, I think there's a lot of places we could go with that. As far as world leaders, again, I think, you know, I'm going to invite President Vicente Fox to join us, and hopefully he would come. And let's invite lots of world leaders. Let's get a whole bunch of them, right? With that cannabis press conference, and everyone sitting at a couple of tables that we put together. There was like 8 people there, spoke, and each gave incredible, speeches, because everyone knew that we were making history, that we had come there together to make history. So people pulled all the stops, and it was incredible. This will be no different. Actually, it'll be very different. It'll be way cooler, right? And everyone gets to eat. Oh my goodness. How cool is that, right? And what this is going to do, this is going to be like the John F. Kennedy early 1960s moonshot speech, where he basically said, listen, I don't know how we're going to do it, but by the end of this decade, we're going to have sent folks to the moon and bring them home safely, right? And it was just like, whoa. And the race was on, right? Well, this is going to kick off a planetary race for solutions to end hunger, right? And lots of people are going to come forward with different solutions and proposals. And I've been saying this for years, and all kinds of people are going to come out of the woodwork saying, variations on I'm in, right? And here's what I got. Great, So this planetary community is now beckoning to form a planetary collective intelligence, which, with the right platform, becomes planetary collective superintelligence, able to solve every last problem that gets in our way quickly, very, very quickly, by swarming the right bumblebees around the right conversational flower. That's what the system does. That's what the platform does, is it steers bumblebees to flowers. And we are fast at work on that platform. And we'll get a lot faster once we get a bunch of more coders in the house, right? Experienced coders. And they'll come. Because here's the cool thing about taking out hunger and pandemics. You get a whole bunch of people from all walks of life, right? This isn't just for young people or just for old people or just for women or just for men or just for Catholics. Nothing of the sort. This is for everyone. This is universal. So among the millions, we'll get a bunch of great coders. Thousands, in fact. And oh my goodness, we'll get this whole thing coded up in a weekend. And then voila. Then watch out, right? As collective superintelligence really takes off, which it absolutely has the potential to do. And in fact, I've got a few slides that I'll share that kind of make the point visually. Sharing my screen. Okay, so if we consider the coevolution, consider the evolution of collective superintelligence as really the coevolution of 2 different things that go together. One is the platform for collective superintelligence. That's, the technology, the web-based platform that basically creates a hyper-connected, super intelligent network out of all the Zoom video conferences that are ongoing on related topics, basically about transforming and saving life on Earth. And atop this platform for collective superintelligence, an actual collective intelligence grows as the people come and interact through the platform, right? And as more people join, that collective intelligence grows and it grows and it grows and it grows and it keeps on growing. It doesn't stop growing, but at some point its growth is constrained by the platform itself. Well, even before that happens to any significant measure, the actual collective intelligence will be designing and building the next generation platform for collective superintelligence, which will support a much greater actual collective intelligence, which in turn, among many other things, will design and build the next generation platform for collective superintelligence, which in turn, and you get the picture. Now, because this is mostly software, right? The really interesting thing about that is that there's really no reason why that exponential, that co-exponential, it's really like a double helix, both going exponentially and feeding off each other. That co-exponential, there's no reason why it should, you know, ever really slow down significantly, right? So we're unleashing something which has the power to grow exponentially in terms of its power to generate solutions, not just ideas for solutions, but actual implementations, right? Which means solving every last logistical, financial, political, ministerial, right? Policy-wise, legal-wise, regulation-wise, you name it, right? If it's a problem to be solved, collective superintelligence will solve it. That's the promise, right? And that in turn takes a backseat behind the veganism. So the headlines are eradicate hunger, eradicate pandemics, right? 100% plant-based. We don't say veganism, we say plant-based. And then collective superintelligence. Those are the big four. Those are the big four goals to achieve in very short order. Bam, 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 bam. Right? This year, we got to nail all those. Because with all of those four, now we can finally set our sights on something which many would argue is the most urgent thing of all, which is cooling our planet through solar radiation management. But we can only do that when people are fed and united and together in a planetary conversation, manifesting collective superintelligence. So that we can then, if you imagine collective superintelligence as like this super powerful laser beam, where do we train that laser beam next? On cooling the planet through SRM, solar radiation management. And now you got the big five. You can count them on one hand. Hunger, pandemics, right? Plant-based foods, SRM, collective superintelligence and SRM. That's it, those are the big five. Those are the big five. And we don't have to hide any part of that. And I hope I answered your question there, Sarah. If I didn't, just chime in. But then I wanted to also ask you about, make sure that you knew that we are recording this with intent to publish and we're streaming live on Twitch. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. And from my perspective, it's actually very beneficial that this be a very open public conversation for a number of reasons, but probably the biggest is so that anyone can join and jump in, right? It's totally open. And that's a big commitment to make, to open your doors to the world like this. But I really believe, that's at the heart of collective superintelligence, is that we finally open it up and really start talking publicly like we're doing right now, right? That's how we get to collective superintelligence. It's the fastest pathway I can think of, and I've spent the last 6 years of my life thinking about it every day, and reading about it, and talking about it, and working with it, and et cetera, right? So, but I don't think we lose anything, because here's the thing: what's somebody going to do? Get the idea from us and then copy it? What kind of person would do that? Well, the kind of person who would do that doesn't have the right stuff to lead a movement to end hunger. It just doesn't work that way, right? So I'm really not worried about this like falling into the wrong hands, right? For one thing, I don't even think they're listening, or if they are, whatever. They're just, who cares? I don't think it's going to make any difference. And what's going to make a difference is us just moving really quickly on this and doing this, as quickly as possible. I totally agree with you. Time is of the essence. Somebody's going to come up with something. and it had better well be us. Right? Let's make it us, right? Rather than somebody who wants to serve a bunch of free milk or something, you know. Yuck. So, yeah, and we've got the leadership team. Of course, it's always going to get better the more, there's lots of great folks we need to, invite and who will come. And we just need to get not the best possible imaginable team in the world, but the one that'll get us to the next level, which is the press conference. Because that's where the message really gets dropped, like a bomb. Pardon the, all these yucky metaphors, but on the world. And I'm sure you were here when I said we've got to blast our way into the mind. We can't worm our way in. You got to blast your way in. There's no other way into the human mind, right?
What was the second thing that you said about the marketing? Because I got the first one.
Yeah.
What was the second when you? And can you type in the chat the name of the book? I want to read that book.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're gonna love this book.
Yeah.
Sarah. Okay, it's the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing.
Okay. It was like rule number 2.
Yeah. Okay, I think I got that right. Okay, and then there's the most important law of marketing of the 22. The most important one is the first one, which you seem to have mastered intuitively or through life experience, or I don't know how you mastered it, but you've got it. And that is, quite simply, it's better to be first than it is to be better, right? Be the first cage-free, dog care business, for example, right? Better to be first than better. The second most important principle in marketing is not law number 2 in the book. This comes a little later, but the second most important thing in the whole compendium is this. If you want to get into someone's mind and hold a favorable position in their mind, you cannot get there from here by worming your way in little by little by little by little. No. The only way you're going to get into their mind is to blast your way in. That's the only way. And that's why this needs to be at a press conference in exactly one city, on exactly one day, with exactly the team we need between in person and via Zoom.
Hey, Jamin.
Yeah.
I know that Dr. Rao wants to do this in Phoenix and everything, but, I was just thinking that, the Kentucky Derby is supposed to be on May 2nd, but they postponed it, and hopefully they'll cancel it forever. But I was even thinking, like, you should have the press conference on a day when some big thing is already supposed to be happening, and then that takes over because they can't have it. Because it's almost like they already, like, how, like, people, like, go on Christmas, like, when they wake up, whether you're Jewish or you're Christian or you're Muslim or you're whatever, it's Christmas, right? So people just expect, oh, it's Christmas. So then there's, like, this, picture in their mind of what it's going to be like, but it's almost like you're almost, yeah.
I love that you brought up the Kentucky Derby, because the media is all prepped for that. We could either go do it at the Kentucky Derby or do it nearby, and especially if they cancel the Kentucky Derby.
Well, they can't, it's supposed to be May 2nd because I'm supposed to be going there and protesting, even though my whole family is going to be there going against me because they have horses and it's this big fight between me and my family, but whatever. But I'm saying that if we did it on something like a big major, event, it's like, okay, they canceled the Tokyo Olympics, right, until next year, right? So it's like, what day was the Olympics supposed to start, right? And then it's almost like you have to pick a major press already is going to be even though the press isn't going to be there May 2nd because they canceled it, they might do a big story on it saying, it was supposed to be the Kentucky Derby, and in 164 years it's never been canceled, but now it's canceled because of the pandemic, blah, 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 blah. It's so funny because where the Kentucky Derby is actually held at Churchill Downs, that's a really poor area. Those people need food.
Well, then it's perfect, right? We show up there and we start cooking up some food and giving it to everyone. We make it.
It's supposed to be in September now, so maybe, I mean, we can't push this till September, surely.
No.
But yeah, I'm just thinking like date setter, wherever Dr. Rao's going to be, taking this to the next level is I even think like Louisville is a good city because Toyota, right? The Toyota plant. Well, you can even have people like Toyota donate the cars to deliver the food, and UPS, they can deliver. My friend's dad retired from UPS. But I mean, my dad used to work part-time for UPS like a long time ago. But you know what I'm saying? Like something like that. It has to be really, it has to be one of those like media moments, like you said that you had with the president of Mexico. Like it has to be, because if you don't have it like that, then it just loses everything. Because like it's just like if Jeff Bezos said he was going to have a press conference, probably everybody would come, right? It's Jeff Bezos because he's known. But if Jamin says he's going to have press conference, he might have to work a little bit harder, right? To get, unless he's besties with Jeff Bezos and he can just be like, hey, Jeff, guess what? I'm having a press conference. Or, hey, Bill, I know we got in a fight in your office like 16 years ago, or 4 years ago or whatever. But, I need you to help me here. Obviously, he's not going to help us, but yet. But it's almost like that. You have to get somebody, some big event like that. It's like the lighting of the torch at the Olympics. That's so big, right? On opening night of Olympics, like one of the biggest nights, right?
Well, here's the thing. What we did with the cannabis press conference was we did it when nothing else was going on, and we created the event. Because when nothing else is going on, the media is free to come to your event because nothing else is gonna hold them back. We did it on a Thursday, which is the best day of the week to do a big media launch like this with a press conference so that it can spill into the Friday and then weekend cycle, right? And just get amplified, right? Like here's a group claiming they're going to eradicate hunger worldwide. Whoa, who the hell, what? Well, they're starting in one city. Well, which city is it? Louisville? I've been to Louisville. How are they doing this? Right? It's a slippery slope. There's no turning back. Once you get the scent of eradicating hunger, no more emaciated children stumbling along, wondering if they're going to make it. Come on. Enough. Good grief. So no one's going to dare oppose us, frankly. Anyone who would, I'd love to debate them. I'd love to have a go at them. Yes, Jackie.
I also want to say, when you say no more emaciated children, I want to see no more obese children dying from hypertension and early onset diabetes because of malnourishment and malnutrition. That is camouflaged. So I think that also needs to be addressed. Just because we see children all like plump and cute baby fat, no, that's disease, early onset disease from malnourishment and malnutrition.
Our children's immune system's been systematically destroyed by antibiotics that's been pumped into the animals in the first place that they're consuming.
Hey, Jamin, you know what's great about this is that, how most applications or for certain demographics or, like let's say, certain people go to Whole Foods and certain people go to Ralph's and certain people go to, Safeway, and then people go to food banks. This is not discriminatory to anyone. This is food for everyone. It's like food for all. Like you said, I mean, who's going to argue against, because there's no There's no boundaries. So a lot of people will say, well, how are you going to get food to Africa? Or how are you going to do this? Or, you know, how are you going to get food to indigenous people? Or how are you going to, it's like, we are. That's the thing, is that there's no limit with what we are doing, because everybody wants to have a limit. Oh, you can go to Taco Bell and order 4 tacos. That's your limit. You know, 4 tacos on our value whatever. You don't have to worry about value menus. You don't have to worry about things that are $1. You don't have to worry about a hamburger being $26 because of a subsidy that's not being given now. You can still have that same plant-based burger. It's not going to be $26. It's going to be free. And, you know, I believe that people will not take advantage of this. I believe that good people will. This is all a concerted effort. I don't think we should rely on, like, I know we need a lot of money, you know, obviously to get the food out, but we should all be remembering that we are servants here on this earth, and that we got to quit taking. We have to be giving, because isn't that what Vegan World 2026 is all about? I mean, we don't have to say all that, you know, in the press conference, because nobody's going to listen to that. But, you know, we have to make sure that people know that this is an all in, like, this is for everybody, no matter if you're what, your race, your color, your ethnicity, your religion, your whatever. We don't even have to bring all that up. We can just say, this is for everyone. There's no catch. Like, you know how people say, well, what's the catch? You know, you're going to get a phone for $5 a month, but you're only going to have 1 gig of whatever, and you're not going to be on a Zoom call, or you're not going to be able to do this or that. But it's like, no, you can have whatever you want. Now, how are you going to address the questions like, what if somebody wants a milkshake? You know, obviously it's not going to be a dairy, but what kind of food are we going to give to these hungry people? I mean, are we going to give the same food that we like to eat? Because we don't want to be discriminatory, right? We want to have, it's almost like I said before, leveling the playing field. Like, you know, like, yeah.
So here's my idea, especially for the first city. The very first city, we want to make it a showcase, right? So I want it to be delicious vegan food, like Melvin. Remember that restaurant we ate at in Berkeley with Silas, Jackie? Remember? Where it's just delicious, really.
It's probably Saturn Cafe.
Well, this one was the Butcher's Son.
Oh, Butcher's Son. Yeah, Butcher's Son.
Anyway, you know, one of the things that I love the most about it, the thing I love most about it is just how my heart feels when I'm there, right? Being in this just everyone around is vegan, right? And and so what's going to happen is, here's the thing. So especially on that opening day of the press conference, we're going to bring in vegan chefs who just like, right? Who just hit it out of the park. And because we're going to invite the press to a meal. You want plant-based foods? We got plant-based foods, right? Oh, you like, you know, hummus with this and that and red peppers and that. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Shoot, I'm loving this vegan stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, us too. Okay, great. Let's go deliver. And then the cameras follow us as we go home to home and say, here, food for you for free. Here, eat up now and forever. Eat up. And watch people's responses. People are going to be crying. Listen, when we did the community cafe, I put the image up a little bit ago. I'll just flash it again, just because I'm a flasher. But when we did this event, and we fed the whole town, and we asked people to please take home as much food as you want, right? People were saying in Spanish, "Es un milagro." It's a miracle, right? Free food for everyone. People are going to be crying, right? And people will be proud. Yes, Jackie.
You know, when you were just talking, it just reminded me of being a kid, and the government cheese would come to be delivered to the projects. And the line would go around 2 buildings to stay in line to get a whole block of government cheese. And we thought, oh, what a miracle. We're getting calcium, we're getting protein, you know, we don't have to worry about this expensive. And what was it? A huge block of Velveeta, just nothing. There was just nothing but just poison. And that was just fed to us and given to us. And we were thinking the same thing. You know, miracle, this will last forever. Grilled cheese, breakfast, and to think that we have now the ability and the consciousness to respond to those people that thought it was a miracle, but truly giving them the gift of life and being aligned with nature, truly being aligned with who we are as human beings, like Sarah was saying, as stewards on this planet, as stewards of Mother Nature and all of her children, to truly meet these individuals and give them exactly what they came on that line to get, which was nutritious meal out of love. And so it just brings me back that we are able to go back and see those lines of hungry people, but actually know that we're actually contributing to their vitality. That as natures and as stewards of nature, that we take only what we need. We give all that we can, and we're the best that we can be. So it just kind of gave me that flashback, and I just wanted to juxtapose that and say, what a beautiful opportunity to be one of those that was on that line, and to be one now to go and transmute that in love and do better.
Okay, what about the I wanted to say about the social aspect of this, and Jackie, you could probably talk on this too, but what about the shame that people feel to wait in line at a food bank, or you know, I can see that people would feel that kind of embarrassment, you know, that they don't have enough and they're having to take their kids along, and I've seen it. This, to me, this seems that it's stepping above that, and we're saying, hey, it doesn't matter, you know, you can have food, doesn't matter. And like, it's almost like an anonymity that is given to these people. So it's almost like they don't have to feel shame or anything. It's just like, hey, you're hungry, just let us know or whatever. And then it's kind of like Secret Santa, almost like a Secret Santa, right? Because it's like, to me, I think I would feel kind of embarrassed to go down to the food bank and wait in line for food. But if I knew that it was getting delivered to my house, it would just be like a food delivery, and I probably wouldn't feel ashamed, right? And I wouldn't have to tell my kids, I'm sorry, mommy has to go wait in this line for us to get our next meal. But no, it doesn't matter. Mommy's at home doing whatever, and here comes the food. It's like, it's almost like I said, you have to have a level playing field. You have to be able to give those same rights to everybody, right? Don't we all have the right to
Totally.
have that?
And far from it being something to be ashamed of, let's get a bunch of Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Malibu, famous actor, actress, vegans, and we'll come and deliver food to their door with TV cameras rolling, with their permission, of course, with their full support, right? And the same exact plates that we're delivering elsewhere go to the lifestyles of the rich and famous. And they can sit down with cameras rolling while their 2, you know, identical twin white dogs of whatever breed, you know, sticking their noses in, right? No, you wait, you'll get to lick the plates, but first, Madame Fufu gets to eat, and it's vegan, so that means that no animals were hurt, lovely. And it's delicious, you know. We're going to turn this into the #1 story in the world, the story that got us out of the doldrums. Yeah, go ahead, Jackie. Thanks.
And to respond to Sarah, I at least know my experience, and I can only speak from my experience, but there is so much shame in looking at your children and not being able to help them. There's so much shame and guilt, because the guilt is about what we cannot do in this moment, and the shame is about who have I become. There's total neglect and rejection of self. So the guilt then births the shame. And if we do this completely in love, if we do this without judgment, because a lot of the shame and the guilt is coming because I'm going to be judged. I'm going to walk in there and people are assuming so much about me and why I need this help. But if we go in there with the messages, I don't care why you're here. We are helping you restore health and vitality for your life. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care if you don't have money. I don't care. We're doing this out of love without judgment, and we're inviting you into the new paradigm. We're inviting you into a party. We're inviting you into the new. So this is an invitation. This is a party. This is about unity and love. It's the way I treat, especially at my events, community members, we're coming here to have a party. We're going to talk, and we're going to restore health and vitality and resilience. And we're going to do this together as a collective, because I love you so much, because I did it for myself, and I love myself so much that I cannot imagine someone else not feeling the way I feel. So I think if we call it more as an invitation, then not judgment, like I don't think you need, because as a soul, as a spirit, do we need? But in this lifetime, what we need is we need community, we need non-judgment, and we need support. And that's all we're here to do.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's about healing. Like we said, like food healers, healing with food. So healing the planet, healing the virus, healing for the next pandemic, healing, just straight up healing with food. Even though a lot of people might think that's kind of crazy, but that's why when somebody does the press conference, they need to just say it like straight up, like without fluffing it up, like just like food healers. Like we're here to, we're here to heal the world, and this is the way we're going to do it, through food. I mean, I guess you could say that, right? Doesn't everything revolve around food?
And those of us that have experienced profound healing from changing our lifestyle, then have the obligation to reflect that, right, back to the community and say, we're not just talking because there's science. I'm living evidence. I'm living evidence that I am on no medications, that I've reversed my diseases, and I'm living my best life. I'm the healthiest and most fit that I've ever been. I'm about to be 48 years old, and I'm the healthiest and most fit that I've ever been. And that's because I chose love. I chose cruelty-free, and I chose compassion, and it transformed me from the inside out, mind, body, and spirit. I restored health on all levels in my multidimensionality because of the way I chose to look at life, and I changed the story that I told myself of who I was as a human being and my connection to all life. And that choice is transformative. So I think we have a moral obligation that if we have experienced that transformation, that we need to reflect that back and say, this is not just talk. I'm living evidence. I'm here. It works. I'm living evidence.
I can't wait for the press conference. Jackie, you're just going to let it rip. Everyone's going to love you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think Jackie is incredible because Jackie brings, a level of, firsthand experience, and she knows how to talk to people. And a lot of people, they don't want to listen to people that, they think are white privileged, or they maybe, like, everybody prejudges everybody. But yeah, I mean, Jackie, I don't even know if you knew this, but I went to Head Start when I was 4 years old. I went to Head Start, and they still have Head Start, I guess. But yeah, I mean, like, I went to Head Start because my dad was a teacher, and he taught, and we don't even try to say the word inner city, but in the past they used the word inner city. I think it's racist to use that word, but whatever. But my dad taught in Louisville, and in the inner city, if you want to call it that. But yeah, and I mean, I'm glad I grew up like not knowing that I didn't really see the prejudice when I was growing up. I only saw it when I moved away from it. I didn't know that I was in it, but I lived it. But yeah, I could see why people would be thinking this is too good to be true. So it's almost like you have to, in the press conference, make sure people know it's not too good to be true. This is true. But I don't even know if I agree with you, Jamin, on giving the celebrities food and all that stuff. I think if you were to do like a promotional video or some clips, you could just show food being delivered. And I don't know if you want to, I think maybe not doing that, delivering to Beverly Hills and stuff, maybe not be a good idea. I think maybe you could do testimonials from people that were in, I think you have to have people in other countries that are going to be being the recipients also. I don't know. I have a low battery on my phone, so I'm switching devices.
Well, look, just like we brought in the medical doctors to handle the medical side, why don't we bring in the culinary doctors to handle the culinary side? So great chefs and also judges of culinary competitions. How do we rate? Let's be objective. Let's get the facts, right? Oh my goodness, we're gonna have so much fun with this. James has had his hand up. Thanks, James, for your patience. Go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. The celebrity idea, in a sense, I get where you're coming from that, because you're letting the ordinary person, because as you said, you couldn't have a lot of cameras going up to, like, people have their pride, so to speak, and they have, they like to be independent and everything. And like you said, it's taken away this, the stigma of having to queue in the street for food banks and things like that, because, and that's not safe for a healthy environment to be in now anymore either. But it's the idea that, I get that, the idea to go into the celebrities is to show that anyone can be hungry and anyone can have food delivered to the door. Basically, you're only showing that it's a delivery service. You're only ordering your groceries, basically. Mother is ordering groceries again. There's no problem. She don't have to go and queue up with a load of people and risk her health, blah, blah, blah. And it's healthy food. But the point that I was wanting to make anyway is that at the end of the day, when you think about it, you're going to have a bit of, you're going to get a bit of flack, and you're going to get a bit of confrontation about it when you, even at the press conference, because, you're going against the grain of a lot of people's normal way of behavior. And that is, by that I mean, not everybody is vegan or vegetarian. So, but again, like, you don't mention the vegan situation, you just mention wholesome, fresh, plant-based foods. And the reasoning for that is the medical reasoning and everything else and what have you. But if you really think about it, children are so adaptable. Children, and this is what it's about, and this is the key message that needs to be pushed through as well. Children are so adaptable, and the majority of children, I have there's a lot of young children in my family, and the majority of them seem to be recently, in the last number of years, born natural vegetarians anyway. They have an aversion to meat for some reason, and I've noticed that anyway. But children are resilient, and they'll deal with anything, and a hungry child will eat anything, as will any human being. If they're hungry enough, they'll eat anything. So what I'm saying is that regardless of the flack or the confrontations that may arise out of a press conference and everything else, once you're prepared for it and everything else, that's grand. You still only have to deal with negativity from one generation, and that's all it is. I mean, if you think about it, given enough time, if the idea sits in and given enough time, meat is going to have to be dealt with itself. Is going to deal with itself anyway. But it's only those that think that way now. The people with closed minds, the adults with closed minds, that think that way now, and that's who's going to be putting up an opposition, we say. But they're only a small amount for a small amount of time, and it's the younger children that are coming up behind these adults that will be thinking a new way, and eventually this will just become the normal way of thinking. In other words, is what I'm saying. So you're going to get flack, but let it come.
Yeah, bring on the flack, because we're happy to have the debate anytime with anyone, right? And who the heck is going to debate whether or not we should end hunger? Because that's what this is going to boil down to, right? People aren't going to be so much interested in debates about the details, what kind of food and whatever. But all right, who is really trying to stop these people? Who is trying to get in their way and saying you shouldn't do this? Who doesn't want to end hunger? The Koch brothers? Well, put them on TV. Let's debate them. All right, Koch brothers, what you got? How many kids would you like to see die of starvation every year? 1 million? 10 million? What's your number? Our number is 0. Why should it be any more than 0? You tell us. We put out the challenge. I don't think anyone will answer the challenge. Right? No sane person. That's my prediction. Someone wants to prove me wrong. Bring it.
Hey, Jamin, you could actually say that.
No, and I will. Look, and that's another thing, is just like with that cannabis press conference, we forced the hand of President Obama and the Attorney General Eric Holder. We forced them to come out with an answer within 3 months. And in less than 3 months, they came out with an answer, and it was positive. But it could have been negative. But we forced their hand. We forced the hand of the most powerful person on earth, President Barack Obama. So show me the hand, and I'll show you how we can force it.
And also because they saw the financial gains in it, but we can't ignore that side of it. But at the same time, they'll also see the financial gains in this, because this is, it creates self gain in so many different ways, not just financially, but health wise and every other way. And if we're lucky, each of us, if we're very lucky, we'll get 70 summers on this planet. Think about it that way. Like, if we're lucky, we get to experience and enjoy 70 summers in our life. How many summers do we want to leave for our children? Think about that way. Like.
You know, one of the things that I've learned in my coaching is that parents will do for their children what they won't do for themselves. Parents will sacrifice and do things for their children that they would never even consider doing for themselves. And that's why, to me, I speak so much about the children and preserving the ecosystems of where children flourish and their health and their inner landscape. That is vitally important. And if we speak to that, to the health and well-being of our children, mind, body, spirit, what are we doing to our children? I mean, really talk about how, especially like the milk in the schools, how that is an assault on their bodies. We know that more than 70% of the people are lactose intolerant, and these schools that are being forced with the milk, the dairy, are really these underrepresented communities. These are Black and brown communities that are being assaulted by our food choices, and the children are suffering the most. They have the least voice. So we have to speak like we do for the animals, for Mother Earth. We have to speak for the children.
Who better than you, Jackie?
Yeah, like Jackie said, it's not just feeding everybody, but it's actually healing everybody, because it's food that heals, food healers. So whereas the government, I'm plugged into I've lost power on my phone, so I'm plugged in. Yeah, because that's what we were talking about before with this freaking government, and they probably don't even know they do it because it's so old, it's such an old law. You know, they probably don't even, half the people in the world are like, what do you mean the government, US government requires public schools to serve dairy? That's just an old ancient, statement that just hasn't been wiped off the books yet, because until we get old white men out of power, nothing's going to change. But yeah, I mean, it's just old white men. I don't know any African Americans that own a slaughterhouse.
Well, the milk project is not just an American phenomenon, to be honest. This will come more or less like a European world. We have it, had it here in Ireland as well. Like, but I think it just goes back to we have to be re-educated, and we have to begin that with our children. You know what I mean? So it's as simple as that. Like the milk was just seen as an essential form of calcium because that was the science at the time, and it's just stuck that way. We just need to re-educate people, starting with the children.
You know, it's simply the obvious thing to do at this point. Now that we've put all the cards on the table and looked at it from every perspective, it's the obvious pathway. Because if it's obvious for one side, it'll be obvious for another. It's going to be obvious for everyone. Again, I really don't think anyone will stand up and try to debate me or any of us publicly about it. I've heard people privately confide that they didn't think this is a problem we should try to solve, right? I've actually heard people say that. And I've challenged them to debate me publicly. No one will accept the challenge. Because it's shameful. To take the other side is simply shameful. So we're going to get basically 100% of humanity, 99.99999 on board, saying, you know what, they're right. Good for them. Good for all of us. Somebody should have done this sooner. What took us so long? Well, whatever it was, let's not let it keep us one more day away from making this happen.
You know, I'm emotional now because this really is a dream come true. This really, really is. It is. I could never, as a little girl, have imagined not only that this would ever be actually happening, but that I would be able to witness this and be a part of it. And the word that keeps coming to me is deserving. And I remember being that little girl receiving that cheese. And I think our communities need to remember that we are deserving, that we deserve truth, that we deserve honesty, that we deserve to be healthy. And those of us, yeah, we look on the whole hierarchical structure. Yes, old white men are right on top. But those of us that have now been blessed with privilege of knowledge, been blessed with privilege of sharing time with a community like this, that have autodidactically learned things that never would have been in our awareness. That's a privilege. And I think we are obligated to go back and reflect that privilege and say there's privileges on whole other levels. But when you know and you can help, we have to go back and help. We have to go back and help. And I think that breaks kind of the barriers of judgment, is because I'm not here because I think you're bad. I'm not here because I think you're doing anything wrong. I'm here because I'm you. I'm you. And I didn't know. And now I know, and now I'm better. And now that I'm better, that gives me privilege because I have an awareness. I can choose my own life. I can choose my own direction. And we have to go back and help people free themselves and liberate themselves. So I think it's about, you deserve the knowledge, you deserve truth, you deserve to live your best life. It is a choice, but the choice has been taken from you and you deserve to make the choice for yourself.
And you deserve to live in a world without hunger. No hunger for you, no hunger for anyone. No hunger. We all deserve to live in a world without hunger. And only now that we're getting organized, where we have the time to get on the topic and stay on the topic for hour after hour after hour after hour, because we're all at home. Work is suspended. This is one of the great gifts of this whole situation, is that we have been given the gift of being able to slow down and connect with each other and have these transformational conversations that go on hour after hour after hour, like they can at a block party that goes all night long. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. So, you know, it kind of feels like everything's happening in the right and perfect time and way.
So, Jamin, what is your perfect press release date? I mean, or would you be able to say by May 15th? Because don't you think you should do it before people get out of lockdown?
Definitely. Yeah, so we definitely want to do this before May 15th.
I think you should do it before May 15th for sure.
Yeah, the sooner the better. The sooner the
Look
better.
at May 2nd, because that's the day of the original, because it's always, so the Kentucky Derby is always the first Saturday in May. It's always the first Saturday in May. I'm not saying you're doing it in Louisville. I'm just saying pick a day.
Yeah, if there is no, especially if there's no Kentucky Derby, then
Yeah, they postponed it till September 11th.
Okay, perfect.
Why would you race horses in the first place? But why would you pick September 11th, a day that you were going to kill more horses?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, horse racing just kills horses. Even though my uncle said they'll never stop it. I'm like, yeah, mafia asshole. I can say that because, you know, my family. That's why I live in California, so they can't get to me.
Wow. Anyway, I think first we need to narrow down the city and get on with the mayor and all the folks the mayor can bring to the table that are local. And let's build out the rest of our leadership community, covering all the topics that we covered previously, which I'm happy to read through again, just to kind of give it a refresher, right? But you know,
and just remember that Mitch McConnell lives in Kentucky. You know, evil Mitch McConnell.
Sure.
He lives in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like, you have a lot of people with power over there, even though they're just small time people. I don't know how they got so much power, but even my uncle takes out commercial ads. My uncle takes out commercial ads against Mitch McConnell all the time. But he told me he's never going to get out of office until he dies. And I believe him now. You have to get evil people on your side so then they can turn into good people.
Yeah, this is something that everyone can get behind. There's no one who fundamentally has to oppose this. Because even for people who, for example, didn't believe in charity for whatever reason, hey, if it has to do with stopping a pandemic, I can get behind it, right? So between hunger and pandemics, taking them both out, who's going to get in our way? Come on.
You could even ask people, every single person that could afford it, just give $1. $1. I thought about that the other day. I was like, gosh, how am I going to pay my rent in May? What if I asked every single person I knew for $1? I'm sure I knew 1,000 people that could give me $1, right? But then I was like, no, I better not do that because I'll just figure out a way to do it. You know, that kind of thing. But if you have to be real, that's how people get so much money at these telethons. Look at the We Are the World or anybody. They just say, hey, just give $1 or $5, text this to whatever, or $1 text to Food Healers. And then all of a sudden Food Healers has $30 million. You know, if you just ask somebody for $1, they're going to give you $1 versus asking them for 5 or 10. Because to me, if somebody asked me for $1 today, I would give it to them. But I would not be able to give them 5 or 10. I just can't right now. I'm having the same issue as everybody else in this freaking world with this COVID crap. But yeah, and I'm just beside myself over this. But I just think it definitely needs to be. I don't even think if you ask for donations, you don't need to. But I'm just saying, if you did, it'd be like $1. Because to me, somebody has $1. Not a lot of people, but enough, right?
Yeah, beautiful. All righty. Myra's had her hand up for a bit, and Melvin also raised his hand. So why don't we go Myra and followed by Melvin. Go ahead, Myra.
Thank you, Jamin. I actually just raised my hand, but it's okay. I was at the park earlier, and while I was trying to meditate, I saw a bunch of little ants, like little indefensive ants, started eating a big spider. And I was thinking about it, and the metaphor of what I understood about the whole thing that I was presencing. It's about no matter how big the spider is, if there's a lot of ants, they're gonna kill it. They're going to put it down. They're gonna attack it. So I don't think it matters how powerful those people, white old people are. If we get to be united and if we are a lot of us, we can definitely defeat anything we want to defeat. So it was just a good experience. And as I was listening to you guys and I was looking at that spider being eaten, it was surprising. I recorded it and everything, and I'm like, wait a minute. It's us. It's the little spiders. Here we are. We look like indefensive. But in reality, if we all come together, we become stronger. It's like I told you at the beginning of this 24-hour block party in Spanish, la unión hace la fuerza.
Beautiful, Myra. Thank you. Whew, so cool. Yeah, and we're taking down what seems like this big monster hunger, right? But enough of us together, and that's what we're doing. We're creating the beginning of something that's just irresistible. And there will be plenty of us. Right, Melvin? You had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. You know, I'm really just now joining in, and it's quite impressive what I've heard thus far. You know, tackling world hunger and then trying to deal with on a, you know, here in the United States and on a local level. You know, I live right across the street from the mayor of Tempe, and we talk, you know, I see him, you know. So I was thinking, I don't know if Jackie, if you or Sailesh have tried to talk to Corey about this hunger, about what you want to do, Corey Woods, the mayor.
I have not yet, and I don't know if Sailesh has.
But I was thinking, because we're having formal chats, you know, right in the alley when he's taking out the trash and stuff like that. I was thinking of introducing him to you, Jackie, and see if, you know, try to get you could get his ear, and then you could tell him about this. He's a pretty progressive guy, you know. He's an African American, you know, the mayor of Tempe, which is a major city here in Tempe. And like I say, at least I think he's progressive, you know, open-minded. I'll when I see him, well, I'm gonna make it I'm going to check in with him and then tell him about what, you know, tell him about you and ask him, you know, could you get his ear just for a few minutes, you know, because he stays right across the street from me. And then this could be a platform for, because, you know, there are a lot of vegan restaurants right around here, you know, all over Tempe, you know. And as I said, Tempe is a little progressive city anyway, you know, because of the university and liberalism and stuff. So I just wanted to put that out.
You know me, I'm always ready for this mission. I'm always ready. So
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Awesome. Super cool. Yeah, we need to nail down the city. So I say, you know, we, the collective intelligence, the group, we interviewed different mayors. Let's see which one we want to, you know, elect for the first city. Why not? Because once we do that press conference, life will never be the same again. We'll never go back. The world will never go back. So many people will be pouring in to support. That there'll be no turning back. It's going to be like pushing a boulder off of a mountaintop. All it takes is that first push. Yeah, and I believe this is really the beginning of humanity, you know, really coming together as a species and saying, you know what, we're all in this together. Let's quit screwing around, pretending like we're separate and we're enemies and this and that, right? Because once we're all eating at the same table, eating the same food, right? We're one big human family.
You know, it doesn't take long once we transition to eating more compassionately. It doesn't take long for you to feel it physiologically. It doesn't take long for your mental clarity to become more acute. It doesn't take long for you to start feeling the compassion and your heart opening. So I think the most difficult part is that catch. It's that connection. It's that trust that we have to build with communities, that we are here with nothing else to gain, but just because we love you. Once we get past that part, I think the food in itself and the message and our intention will help to heal, and we're automatically going to start recruiting people to support us, because they're going to want now that health and that resilience that they're feeling, not going to feel so good. They're going to want other people to feel so good. And so it's going to have a ripple effect. So that's what has me so encouraged and so emotional, because it's so beautiful how the divine feminine will make our way in here. Just going through the love, just going and reaching inside the soul of the individual, that will then start healing from the inside out. And then it will all start coming together, and we all will be sitting at this table together. So it has me very excited. And I know the first part is going to be difficult, is getting that message, but I know once we do, that just life and that health and that vitality is just going to ripple.
Yeah, we can't go wrong. We cannot fail. So many people are just going to come pouring in. And the collective intelligence will be able to fan out into the far reaches of topics, whether it's to cook with oil or to cook without oil, or whether this or that, or that, you know, whatever, you know, you name it. We'll go to the far reaches. Yeah, we'll all be eating together.
I think the biggest barrier that we have in general is that
Thank you very much.
People, we may not want to be separated, but people like classes. They like first class. They like coach, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, the thing is that we have to stop creating separation, because that's what it is. It's separation, right? Separation is the key to control. Separation, controlling the cows, the female cows, separating from their babies, right? Even on the Best Family Farm I just went to recently, a couple Sundays ago, on a little organic farm, certified, family-owned crap, where they separate the babies and they're, you know, and I like literally just stop inside the road and do a Facebook Live. I'm like, here's your grass-fed butter. I mean, grass-fed butter is insane. But until we quit this separation, because that's what it is. And, you know, everybody's like, oh, we need to come together, right? We all need to come together. You know, that's the thing. We have to come together, right? But how do we come together if we're systematically separated? Because it's the system that keeps us separated. And once we fight the system and say, we don't want to be part of this system, we don't want to be in any system, because we want to be part of a process. Because as Dr. Rao says, you know, systems is what keeps us, you know, from moving in the right direction, because we're in a system that's controlling us. So we have to break free from that. So I think this is the way to do that and say, hey, look, yes, everybody loves food. Let's have food for everybody. It's no trick. There's no gimmick. This is just for real. This is finally, because everybody's tried to do this. How many times, like Jamin said, you know, give to UNICEF or give to the commercials on TV, like, oh, do you want to feed a hungry kid? And you don't even know where the kid lives, and you have no connection to the kid, right? You're still separated, right? Because they're separating you. The only thing you're doing is writing a check, and you don't know how much of that money is going actually to the kids, right? Mm-hmm. But they tug on your heartstrings. So that's the thing in the press conference, I'm sure that you're going to relay, is that you have to tug on people's heartstrings and say, look, you know, and I don't think that actually people want to hear that word. Like, everybody wants to hear that, oh, let's get together and let's, you know, come as a community and all that stuff. We like that. But remember that people that eat meat, dairy, and eggs, that's kind of weird to them. They're just like, whoa, you know, like they might not be touchy-feely people, right? But this is like, through food, you can come together in any way. You don't have to be a certain, like we talked about, economic, color, race, religion, whatever. This is just food, right? Even though it is just food, it's much more than food, of course. We know that. We in the Vegan Collective Intelligence Group know that, or the, if you want to call it intelligence group instead of the vegan one, but whatever. It's almost like that. You have to say that. I don't even know if you want to market it as this is a coming together or whatever. I think it should just be real simple, because like I said, people can't grasp that much, but people will realize it, that they're coming together once they get good nutrition in them. Then all of a sudden, like Jackie said, they will be metamorphosized into their true self, what they're supposed to be in the first place, back to nature, right? And people probably won't keep buying packaged foods. I would think maybe this is the end to hopefully packaged food, processed food, but today's my first day off processed food, so I'm struggling.
No, and that's a big part of it, Sarah, is getting rid of single-use plastics, right? Because this is going to be done in bulk in a way that we don't have to have single-use anything. Even the containers that we use to deliver to people's homes can be, you know, do us a favor, just rinse it out. If you want to wash it, that's even better. But at a minimum, rinse it and just put it outside, and then we'll pick it up when we bring you the next delivery, right? So it's all reusable.
Because it won't be cross-contaminated with meat, dairy, or eggs. So it's okay if they're touching it. Because, okay, so a lot of people are going to be like, wait a minute, you're going to have reusable stuff. What about the virus and people touching it and the droplets and all the stuff? It's like droplets of plant-based spit. Really? That's what you're worried about? You know, but we don't want to get into that too much. But you see what I'm saying? Like, people really can't conceptualize the single-use plastic or the reusable straws, right? or our little silverware we carry around with us, our little wooden stuff, because they can't even conceptualize stop eating meat, right? So we got to remember, we got to keep it simple because they're not thinking in these mindsets. Because first you got to get them. Remember, like, I don't know if you guys are the same, but I remember when I went vegan, I graduated into, plastic. Like, it's like a learning curve when you become vegan, because you start learning, right? Your taste buds learn. Oh, wow, I didn't know I hated tomatoes. I love tomatoes. What? I thought I hated tomatoes. But you hated tomatoes because you were addicted to maybe the steak, and you didn't think that your taste buds. So it's almost like it's accelerating people's palates, and it's actually intelligizing people's palates. So their level of consciousness is awakened, where they're like, wow, this is so awesome. And then they can have a good future. So that's why I think it's so good for Jamin to talk about the parts about, we're not going to have future pandemics, or if a pandemic comes while everybody's still transitioning, then I don't have to worry about it because we're nourished, we're good, we're at home, we're getting our food delivered to us at home, our jobs are. That's where I think maybe that would be a big question for me to ask Jamin is, what about people saying about jobs, or does the food ever run out? Like, how long can you stay on the food program? I think it should be forever. And I don't think it should be it should be limitless, completely limitless on what you can and cannot give. So how do you do that? You got to get billionaires or a lot of money to buy the bulk food, right? But food's not that expensive. It's only expensive because government subsidizes it. But the food that we're going to be giving them is going to be affordable because it's not going to be subsidized by government. Therefore, it's affordable. So, but then I would like to see at the same time a hamburger at McDonald's go to $26. And they're going to be like, what? I'm not going to pay $26 for a hamburger when I can get my food delivered to me for free. Hey, Shankar, I'm glad you came on. But yeah, you see what I'm saying? So it's almost like you have to like get there to the people, like, like what they're thinking in their mind, because they're not thinking like what we're thinking, where we're just trying to fix everything, right? This is going to fix everything, but we have to let them realize that they will come to that realization on their own once everybody in the community is participating. It's like, we can get free food. What? Are you kidding me? And we don't have to do anything? And there's no catch? We don't have to be looking for a job while we're getting the food? No, you need to be taking care of your family so that when they do go out in the workforce, that they can get a job that they're good at with their skills, and that they have their mind right, because that's why slaughterhouse workers are so crazy, right? Because they're in there killing pigs, right? I mean, I was talking to some of those slaughter workers last Friday when my friends and I went down there to do that little demo that we did quickly, but we put caution tape all over the place because, but the workers were coming by from a shift change. And I was even talking to the workers. I'm like, hey, how's it? I mean, I know that's probably inappropriate for me, but I was like, hey, can I interview you, or can I just talk to you? Or what's it like to, do you have to actually kill the animals when they're in there? Or are you part of the process? Are you part of the packing part, or do you actually have to get the pigs off the truck? I was trying to talk to them to find out what is it about them that's, what? They were all African-American and Hispanic. I didn't even see any white people there. And I was like, wow, this sucks for them because they have a job and they don't want to get deported. And this is their job to kill. And we got to stop training people to kill. So this is the best way to do it, through food, because there's nobody that's going to be killed for them to eat. So therefore you take out that kill. So you take out that violence, and then they're eating and they're getting sustenance and they're happy. And then they become better people, productive people, and they're not trying to go out and hurt people and abuse people and stuff that is innately in their biological makeup, because they have been biologically, like, it's biological warfare, basically. When you're giving people meat, dairy, and eggs through food stamps, you're keeping them sick, you're keeping them in the system, you're keeping them addicted, and it's never going to end if you keep them on that. That's why I think this could replace that food stamp system. Like you said, Jamin, you got to talk to the government and say, hey, you don't have to give all those billions of dollars. You can give half of it. Like, what you can say is, I'm going to cut your budget in half. You're going to save so much money.
and you just trick them. And you just say, hey, I mean, it's not really a trick because it's true, but, you know, hey, you're spending $55 billion a year. It's more than that, but $55 billion a month. Say that on giving people food stamps, right? And all these people that are hungry now, right? That are not working, that are getting EBT, people that never ever thought in a million years that they would be in this position, because nobody, even though people say they saw this coming, let's just be real, 99% of us did not see this coming. If we saw this coming, we wouldn't have been in this position. We'd probably be thinking a little, we probably would have already had the press conference, right? And gotten this food app out. But yeah, none of us knew that this was going to happen. So I feel like it is the right time. The time is now. We have to get it out there before anybody else. Just like they say, people are going to go to Mars, right? So the first person to Mars gets the, right? Gets the accolades, or first person to the moon, right? So this is like first person to be able to solve world hunger. That's a pretty big undertaking, but it's definitely doable. It's so easy. This is so easy. This is a no-brainer, right? Giving food to people in the world that are hungry, and we don't have to go to the general public or the government and sign up for something where they get your email and they capture all your information, start tracking you. You don't have to get a vaccine to get free food. I think we need to push back on those vaccines. And that's why people start thinking for themselves by feeding them. By the time the vaccine comes around, they'll be like, we don't need no vaccine. We're fine. We're healthy. What are you talking about? COVID? COVID what? Yeah, exactly. That's the way to solve future pandemics. You can completely tell somebody that it will be erratic. Like, what are you talking about? Future pandemics. This is it. We got the solution right here.
Welcome, Shankar. Welcome back, buddy.
Hey, everyone.
Shankar was one of the few people, along with James and Stephanie and Emery, Natalie, Dylan, one of the few people, Jackie, Myra also, Sarah, who helped shepherd us through the early the early block parties. Can you believe it? We're on block party number 11 consecutive without missing a week. Without missing an hour of the 24. Anyway, wow, what an amazing conversation. I mean, it's like once you get it, that this is inevitable, didn't your world just change, right? We now live in a different world. There will be no more hunger. Can you imagine how pieced out people are going to be? You can just be at home. Just get on a video conference. And if you don't have the hardware, well, we're figuring that one out too. And I've got experience in that. Actually, that's how I met President Vicente Fox. We were building and operating educational computer centers in Western Mexico. So he came out as president to inaugurate our 25th educational computer center. So we can do computer centers. We can do a lot of things. But
hey, Jamin, can you talk about the world peace part? Because Dr. Will Tuttle, since he was on this morning, he wrote the World Peace Diet, which is a great book if you haven't read it. And his wife is also equally amazing. But he talks about World Peace Diet, World Peace Diet. It's like, I almost think that you should even say we're going to have world peace, because we are. Because everybody knows that when you're happy and healthy, and you're happy, that you're going to have world peace, because you're not going to be trying to hurt anything, right? People are going to start to.
Yeah. No, and because
Yeah.
we're going to eradicate hunger everywhere, we won't need to have resource wars, because what were the resource wars supposed to be about anyway? Fundamentally about food production, land, water, oil, right? But look, if we're eradicating hunger everywhere, everyone can just peace out, right? People will be able to volunteer, right, to work in whatever parts of the new food network they want. You like to work in greenhouses with your hands? Great, we got plenty of work in that. You know, you like to, you know, plow a field, right? Drive a tractor, whatever. There's so much to do, right? That, and people are going to be so in love with this. Here's how I envision it. I mean, look, there's two ways that this could work. One is like with a market-based system with money and all that, and another is where people just volunteer, and it's just one big gift from the world to the world, one giant collective gift. That's the one I would love to see. But even if it is in the old market-based system and world of money, right? Here's how I see it shaken down, is that we're going to prove to the world that this is essential, vital, inevitable, and all those good things. And bottom line, we just got to do it. The only thing left to be sorted out, welcome, Michael. The only thing left to be sorted out in a market-based, money-based world is who's going to pay for it. That's it, right? But that it's a vital thing, it's a vital thing, right? Does anyone argue that there needs to be a fire department, right? In every city and town everywhere? No. No one ever argues. And guess what? That means they always figure out a way to pay for it, right? Always. City funds, county funds, state funds, federal funds, private funds, whatever. They always figure it out. Funny thing that, well, we're going to basically achieve that for food and food networks. Different communities in different places around the world may argue about it. And, you know, I think the international part of it is going to be a huge part, which, you know, rich countries, quote unquote, rich countries helping quote unquote poor countries, whatever. But it's not that hard to figure out once we turn this corner after the press conference and the word just spreads and the debates happen and the discussions happen and everyone's covering it, everyone will be living in that new world that we're now living in. A world that is almost completely and permanently hunger free. Yes, Jackie.
2 points. One, I wanted to piggyback off of what Sarah was saying about the slaughterhouse workers. I mean, there's not many of us that know that, at least locally, I know that there's, so nonviolent offenders are sent to slaughterhouses to murder. There are animal activists that get arrested and then are penalized by having to go and murder and slaughter the animals that they were arrested for protecting. I mean, if that is not the system telling you, we know what's wrong, and now we're gonna punish you and force you and put your nose in what you were trying to interrupt. That I think is such an offense of our humanity. I mean, that's something that needs to be exposed. And then also, I think a strong message is what sets us apart. And I think because you talked about having a group talking about the permaculture and about, are we going to assist these communities in also becoming self-reliant, teaching them how to do community gardens, how to grow their own food, so that as we're delivering, we're also giving them the tools to then continue this on their own, to create intentional communities, so to speak, where we're sharing, where people are growing food and they're sharing so that the costs are low, they're maintaining the but they're also being self-reliant, which is what I think sets us apart from like the UNICEF and the Feed Our Starving Children, which maintains the systems and the poverty in place. They're just band-aids, like Sarah was saying, to maintain it in place. But we're not doing that. We're going to call out the reasons why you're impoverished, the reasons why you're starving. And we're not contributing to the system. We're giving you the tools so that now you can break yourself out of that system, but you have to be aware of it. And I think calling out the reasons why poverty is in place and starvation is in place, yeah, we're not going to just bring you things because the system is going to maintain itself if we just come in and just keep supporting it. We have to teach you about why you're even there, and we have to show the world that we know. Let's get it out in the open why it's there, and these are the tools that you need to be self-reliant, because it's not our job to save you, it's our job to help you save yourselves.
Yeah, and you know, there will be a planetary collective intelligence of many millions of people. You know, if you do the math, 1% of 7.7 billion people is 77 million people. And the 1% most compassionate, most committed, most caring, most willing to say, you know what, you know, I've never done this video conferencing thing, but to help end world hunger, I'm in. Those 77 million, right? We're going to form a planetary network so that any part of the world that meets with a significant challenge, whether it's resources, water, you know, government corruption, any kind of corruption, right? Whatever its challenges are, right? We'll have a planetary collective intelligence that includes people in that very country or region or state or whatever it is. People who are there, people who are from there, and are now living in the United States or England or somewhere else, right? With all kinds of connections and perspective, are going to say, here's the way to do it. You go to the Minister of Agriculture and you present this ultimatum, and you do it publicly, and here's how. I mean, like, just like I know how to do a badass press conference, right? Because I've done them before several times with presidents of countries, right? Likewise, there are people who know how to work their way through the legal system, government policy, international relations, finance, you know, whatever. There's an answer to everything. And a properly assembled collective intelligence will generate those answers very quickly, very reliably. It's really going to be something. All right, we got something here in the text, in the chat. Abrupt hunger change. All get to eat. I like it, Emery. Yeah. Sarah says world peace will come when people are healthy and happy. I totally agree with that. Wow, what a relief that this is right around the corner. Well, I'm totally good with an early May date. We gotta get the right city, and so that means we need to start talking with some mayors, right?
Well, there's still fine tuning to be done and logistics to be sorted out. As you said, like the plan has to be finalized before you start confronting the mayors. You have to have the idea backed up with the plan, and logistics include, you know, everything from food supply to, you know, from the food itself to the supply of the food itself and everything. The logistics, there has to be a plan for the logistics anyway, at least, like, is what I'm saying. Like, all you need then is the is the cooperation to implement, basically. So, well, that's what we're doing here anyway, with the collective intelligence is coming up with these plans. Like. But I think for a press conference like that, it's important as well, as I said, not to be shoving, because you will come up with conflict and everything else, not to shove the vegan name out there in the fore in the whole situation. It's the hunger we have to focus on in local societies, and it's the, you know, yeah, basically it's the hunger we have to focus on, and the future of possible more possible pandemics, and being able to deal with them and should they arise, our capability to do that, like with the collective intelligence is part of that, like coming up with ideas and solutions for that. But I think for a press conference like that, it would be for reason alone, it would be important to have someone on the panel that actually isn't vegan or vegetarian, so that they can face any negative feedback. You know what I mean? In saying, well, hello, like I'm up here as well with these people, but I'm not, you know, vegan or vegetarian. But I have common sense. I can see the common sense. I can see the necessary common sense. You know what I mean? And the hypocrisy of my past ways and beliefs, and therefore I'm willing to change for the better good.
But that's why you're going to have the team of doctors. Like you could have Neil Barnard. He's a cardiologist. I'm sure you know who he is, Jamin.
I think I've heard the name, but I didn't.
Neil Barnard. He's one of the top cardiologists.
This area, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Yeah, he's PCRM, Physicians Committee Responsible Medicine. Yeah, he just had a call this morning. I missed it at 11 a.m. Okay, I need to get off screen because I'm wearing a sports bra and that's not appropriate for this video. Yeah, okay. So, well, it's like 83 degrees here and it's very hot. Okay, so instead of going to the beach today, I got on the vegan and the block party. Instead of going to the beach and thinking only about myself, I decided to let's think about food for everybody in the world and stayed at home.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was supposed to be my beach day. Even though you're not allowed to go on the beach here, you can still sort of like go on the beach. It's like kind of sketchy, but yeah, I think it's good to have the team of doctors because it doesn't matter what they come at you. The doctors, I mean, look, people believe Dr. Fauci. They believe all these other doctors that, I mean, think about all these experts that are coming on to President Trump's daily briefing and half of them don't know anything, you know? He appoints people just if, you know, he likes their paper towels in their kitchen, he'll say that they're ahead of ordering supplies. So it's one of those things where if we have the team of doctors, nobody is going to be able to nobody's going to be able to, like you said, debate, or they can debate if they want, but you can debate a doctor all you want, go right ahead, because doctors typically in life don't have any nutritional information that's of value, but these doctors do, right? You want to get the team of doctors that know, that have taken more than 6 hours of nutrition in their medical school. Even vets, like vets of animals, animal vets even get more nutrition. So yeah, definitely PCRM is a great, PCRM.org. I think Shankar's putting it in the chats, but Physicians Committee for Responsible Med. And then you have, because he's a cardiologist, he's been around for a long time. He just wrote a new book called Your Body in Balance. It's an excellent book. It's all about hormones, and I recommend it to everybody, but it's actually about people that go in and they say, oh, I have all this like endometriosis, or they have all these things, or they can't get pregnant or whatever. And then they go to Dr. Barnard and he's like, okay, here, put them on a plant-based diet. And then they come back and all of a sudden they got, you know, having 3 kids. And it's like, luckily they're vegan babies, so we don't have to worry about them overpopulating the world so much. But what I'm saying is that, you know, you have your team of doctors there and just let them try to get through that wall of doctors, because you're not going to put doctors up there that you're going to have to get off the stage. You know how like Trump has to, you know, be like, oh God, Fauci's about to tell the truth. Better get him off quick. You know, he literally, you're going to have people that are of complete sound mind, substance, you know, so, you know, they're going to know what they're talking about. And you got to get the top ones too, right, Jamin?
I'm sorry, the last question, you got to get the top ones?
You'll get the top doctors.
Thank you. Ones, yeah, definitely. That's what Dr. Priya Naik is working on, and she's just an incredible speaker herself, and incredible at handling any questions. But even she, of course, knows her own limits, and so she's bringing in other expert doctors from other areas of expertise. And what she's finding is everyone is jumping at the opportunity to help end hunger, heal the climate, and eradicate pandemics. Michael, how you doing? Hey, sorry, we've been just kind of engrossed in conversation. I haven't properly said hello to you, but welcome, and welcome back.
Oh, no problem. I'm listening.
All right,
perfect. I'm gonna make a sweet potato crust while I'm listening. So I'm turning the video off.
It sounds delicious. All righty. So, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that we have, I'm just going to call it God's obvious truth on our side. It's the truth, and it's obvious, and it's right, and it's obvious that it's right. I mean, it's so simple. Let everyone eat 3 meals a day, nutritious plant-based foods. What are we waiting for? And when we have that, we're going to have a humanity that is so pieced out, right? Pieced out because they're eating whole foods, plant-based diets that boost their immune system, energy levels, etc. But also pieced out because they live in a world without hunger. It's kind of like a never-ending block party or something.
Hey, Jamin, can I ask you a question?
Sure, of course.
How do people get the food if they don't have access to the internet? Let's say that they're in a rural, I really want to talk about more of the world than we're talking about just having the launch. Like, let's say people are, because, I think really they need to you guys need to have, like the answers, like if you're in a remote part of India.
Yeah.
And you're have 70,000 people in this one city, and they're all hungry, but there's no internet there. How are they going to get the food? How are we going to know that they need the food?
Yeah. So, first of all, the planetary collective intelligence. Let's say I'm just saying minimum we're going to get 1% or 77 million people participating in the planetary collective intelligence. In support of this program. And let's just say that 1% is evenly distributed around the world. So if there's a city in India with no internet connection whatsoever, there are still people who visit that city and will know about this program, take the news of it to that city, and there will be representatives from that city participating in the collective intelligence, even if they have to do it from some other city that does have internet. And they'll say, look, here's our situation, I've mapped it out, and here's the level of hunger and malnutrition in our city, and here's what's currently being done about it, and here's what we think we need, and we need help. Help us, right? And then that person will be directed to the right, group of people who will be able to, work with the locals to figure out solutions. So the app is in some ways, it's sort of like the tip of the iceberg in that it helps get it started, right? It helps get the whole process started because people are placing orders and getting whole food plant-based meals, and they're being able to gift these meals to others so they get to experience that joy, both joys, et cetera, so it brings in money and kind of helps get the thing kick-started. But in the end, I think it's going to take much broader fundraising and contribution, receiving way beyond just the app. So the app is just really one part of it. Very important for getting started, crucial for getting started. But in the end, just a part of it, just like your starter motor. You use it once to drive 1,000 miles, right? But it was pretty important because otherwise you couldn't get started.
Every member state of the United Nations has to contribute so many millions or billions even every year anyway to UNICEF and for charitable organizations. It's been done for years that there's been food, it goes back to my grandparents' time where they were encouraged to put a penny in towards, feeding those who were starving in Africa or whatever the case may be, Bangladesh, whatever the case, wherever the famine happened to be. How many years is that going on is what the questions that should have been asked all along, and why isn't it not working? And the reason it's not working is simple, because their idea of feeding those people was to ship grains and what have you out to them and dish it out to them in bowls and what have you, and make these people dependent on this assistance, instead of providing them with the initial sustenance first and giving them the ability to, and the means and the know-how to provide it for themselves, which they prefer to do independently anyway. You know what I mean? It's not about the continuation of, it's just about a change in mindset and change in infrastructure, and those monies that the UNICEF, the United Nations and everything else donate every year. I'm not saying it's not doing good work or anything else. I'm just saying it's applied in the wrong way. It could be applied in much better ways, and this is what this is about, coming up with the right way to do it. There's plenty of funds out there for this. Like, it just has to be, pressure just has to be put on these people to use it in the right way, to actually solve the problems they're supposed to be, or say they're trying to.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest parts of this is simply the idea that will now be cast in a whole new light. The idea that we are ending hunger worldwide, and it's up to each and every location of the world, city, town, county, whatever, region, to jump into a conversation about how to best do that. Not whether to do it, but how, right? And before, we hadn't even gotten to whether, because it wasn't even seen as possible, right? Now we've crossed that bridge, and now it's not just possible, it's inevitable. And now that it's inevitable, the only question that remains is specifically how. Who's going to pay for it, right? Is it volunteer-based? Is it money-based, etc.? That's all. So really, the net, one of the planetary results of the press conference will be that we're now ending hunger. We, humanity, are ending hunger, and every location, every locality around the world is now figuring out how it would like to do that or participate in that. That's it. It just, bam, everyone will be talking about it.
See, I have a question here, or like an answer. There's in India, I've seen a couple of practices. How they do it is like it kind of tied to a religion, or it's kind of tied to a person's success, or it kind of tied to some kind of activity. Like, for example, some people just pray to the god saying, like, for example, they'll keep a short-term project goal, and if the goal is reached, and they will go and treat people. So, and most of the temples and villages, it's very common. It's a routine activity. Like there is the people who pray that I'm going to give food for 1,000 people. So that practice is like ingrained in the religion or in the community, or like, for example, somebody's birthday, they go and offer meals. So it's kind of somehow tied, and I have eaten food in the village temple and all. Oh my God, like they really serve like 1,000 people just like that. And it's really nutritious food, not any crap. Like it has a perfect combination of the grains, lentils, fruits, vegetables, fruits, and everything. Like you get it like and one meal itself is like you can almost survive for 2 days if you eat one meal. Like the typical the thali or like everything. So the idea is like I really like how people coming together for that. That's the message I want to take. Like when they have a good spirit and the spirit of togetherness, that caring, and not feeling like a burden, though occupied in that moment of serving. Like look at the crowd, I got to do next in that moment. But when you kind of really zoom out and see, like wow, how they are integrating everything and how they are taking care of each other. So that's one of the awesome part. Here I see the Meals on Wheels, or I don't know, there is always some scheme. Even the Food Not Bombs, there is a F&B, they do it. And I heard in California, a couple of people, like they go in the food truck and they offer a couple of people who can tie it to the spirituality, who can tie it to the, because that overcomes all the economics, everything. When you really have a wide heart, you kind of make things to, because it's all going to come from out of opening up that selfish heart. So it's like, it appears like scarce, but moment you start opening, and the best person who can tell that is the donors. When they form a scheme or something, they will say, how are we gonna do this? But they really can do, when they do it, that like the GoFundMe, or sometimes how things pile up, and there is always a heart to support. There is always an invisible hand or unknown hand to help.
Yeah, I agree there, Shankar. All I could say is that that is a perfect example, all right, of what we should be generally doing globally, in a sense, like. And I would say, on like, as an Irishman, I know like that per capita, it's known that the Irish are known for being a very generous nation to as many those in need as possible outside their own, because it's so ingrained in our it's so ingrained in our history that we know what it's like. We know what it's like in our history, and it's passed down, as I said, through, I suppose, epigenetics. It's in our genes. Now we know what it's like to hunger, and well, we all know anyway as well, because I went hungry when I was a child. We all did. You know what I mean? There's no shame in that. It's only the wealthy that didn't really, as I say, like in small societies. But that's the society you're talking about there, and that part of the religious aspect, and that's what I'm saying. That also comes with the Irish people as well. It's kind of religiously ingrained in us to be charitable and everything else. But the sad thing about it is that the people of Ireland now are becoming disheartened with it, because, like I said, all the United Nations contribute millions and millions every year. But the people of Ireland are not stupid either, and they know that the majority of that, only like 1% of it actually gets to the people on the ground, in the sense, or well, I won't say 1%, I'm not going to put a figure on it in case I misquote or whatever, but very little of it gets to the actual people on the ground, the charities on the ground, because it's all spent in in the corporate side of it, and all these executives getting all these bonuses, and there are big offices and all this useless paraphernalia, and millions of trees being wasted just to produce the literature that they're trying to send around, and it's all made into a business so that people can have a living out of the charity, and it's a disgrace. Whereas the money should be just sent to where it's needed and put into good use. So if we come up with a good enough plan, we have to use that. We have to show that that money is wasted every single year on just paying executives out on trying to run a charity that doesn't really need that much money to run it, if you think about it. Like, you know what I mean? It only needs to be run by showing people there's a better way, that's all, and providing the better way for them. It's alternatives, that's all it is. Thanks.
Yeah, you can call it as I was thinking, surplus management. Like now, if you look at this situation, there is a lot of surplus locked, and some people need it, and some people are like, if it is a business, probably I would work on the logistics. Anyway, I'm not going to get anything. Who cares? If somebody is really willing, like if we could channelize all those, that itself can feed or take care of a lot of things. Like one of the person I met here, they gave an idea of like, there is a lot of restaurant leftovers. You know what they do, what I heard they do is they take that and they go and feed the animals. So they told if they tried to feed the people, they are put in like, sometimes people question, or it's kind of like suing, like you got to maintain all the food standards and everything. So it's difficult for them to maintain. But at least those people take all the restaurant end of the day leftovers and everything. They go and put it in the animal farm. They take that measure to go and redistribute in the animal farm. So these animals get some food, the leftovers, the chopped veggies, and some of them you can compost. But some of them, if it's really a food, it's still nutritious. Yeah. Yes.
Hey, can I read you guys something? So from Jackfruit Cafe today, it says free and reduced vegan meals. They posted it on their Instagram. Free and reduced vegan meals powered by Jackfruit. And it says, and it gives the address and everything. It says hot and cool cafe, or it's going to be at this cafe. Anyway, it says free with EBT or $5. You get one free meal per EBT card. Soul bowl with jackfruit, rice, greens, vegan mac and cheese. And it's hashtagged health is spreading. And it's going to be in Lamert Park. So they're going to be going to area that I guess is underserved. You know, that's the problem, is what we're talking about mostly. The reason why we need this food app is because the food that we have and that's getting thrown away is not getting to where it really needs to get to. Because if you think about it, just think about how many privileged people go and eat. And I'm not saying I'm privileged, but I am very guilty of throwing away food all the time. And it's awful. And I wish I didn't have to do it, but that's why I'm giving up processed foods, because when I buy processed foods, it's usually on some type of I'm just trying to find something to eat, and then I choose something processed, and then I feel terrible, and then I'm like, I don't want to eat that ever again. So then I just leave it in my fridge and then whatever. But this is a way, but I wish that we didn't have the EBT thing for this type of food to get delivered. I wish you could just deliver it for free, but this is the kind of thing that's happening, you see all around. So by putting this on a bigger scale, like Jamin's saying, and Dr. Rowell, is what is needed. So you can see that this is already a need. I mean, it's obviously a need. People are hungry. But yeah, this is because during the pandemic, and also people are getting sick of going to the grocery store and waiting in line for an hour. It's now gotten down to about 45 minutes, depending on what time you want. But so this is a great thing that Jackfruit Cafe is doing, free and reduced vegan meals. And she can't do it every day, like on a scale that you're talking about, Jamin. But this is what I'm saying, is that this is happening all over. What this is going to do is relieve actually these people because she doesn't, I know her, Angela, she doesn't have money to give these people food. Like, she's trying to make money selling vegan food, but she's doing this because she sees a need and she's serving the community. But yeah, Angela was in that movie Friday. You remember that movie Friday? And she was, what did she say in the movie? It was really famous. Anyway, whatever. She's really cool. But you know that movie Friday, right? Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying is that how are you going to get the money, Jamin, before it launches? Or are you just going to launch it and then all of a sudden money will start coming pouring in?
Yeah. So here's my thought is I was thinking of, you know, getting some friends together and donating like the first truckload of rice, right? Stone soup style. Hey, I know this isn't everything that's going to be needed, but I know this will help take us pretty far. Somebody else will donate a truckload of beans. Somebody else will donate a couple truckloads of potatoes. We'll get a bunch of donations of truckloads of produce, right? And we'll find some restaurants that are willing to go in with us and, you know, get it started. And we'll get them, we will line up all the raw materials, all donated, you know, all the ingredients, and we'll work out the meal planning and all that. But just to get it started, right? Once we get it started, and again, we're going to need a mayor who's committed and a bunch of pillars of the community who are committed. And we're all going to get out there and commit publicly. And I think the fact that we are committing to it and promising it and staking our names, our reputations, our lives on it, because this is truly life and death. And when we state why, we state our case, the world's going to listen, their jaw is going to drop. And they're going to say, we're in. Everybody's going to be in.
Yeah, and another suggestion there, as I said over here, there's a food store company chain. They're actually a German called Aldi's, and they moved into Ireland a few years back.
Yeah.
They're food chain stores. But yeah. Aldi came up with the idea that because you know, every country, not even ourselves, we're a charitable country, but we have homeless people as well, and people that go hungry as well, like every other society. But Aldi came up with a very, because there's a lot of charitable organisations around and everything else that help these people. But one way of doing it was that at the end of business day, Aldi bought a number of refrigerated trucks, and at the end of the day, the fresh foods that were on the shelves, that's put up on the shelves that day, that aren't sold because they're fresh foods, they're usually the normal practices that they get thrown into a skip at the back of the shop after the end of the business. So they don't do that at all by any means. No, the food gets retaken down, it's put into the refrigerated lorries, and it's delivered to the charitable organisations to be, you know, to be dispersed as necessary. It's not thrown in the bins anymore. So that's another food. All supermarkets actually have no other choice but to dispose of their fresh food supply at the end of the day or whatever, because of sell-by dates and freshness. So it's just another way of having what would normally go in the bin and save a person having the dignity of having to fish in the bin for the food, have a place where he can get a fresh meal from that source. In a sense, like, you know what I mean? It's just another way of getting food in that would otherwise be wasted.
Absolutely. See, we need this whole system, analysis and reconfiguration. We need to reinvent the entire food network, including everything you just mentioned, right? Every aspect of it. Food that would otherwise have to get tossed, you know, whatever, Okay, how do we handle it? Right? How do we make sure that we use it right away, same day, ideally, right? Why not?
Well, it was a big PR coup for Aldi's here But it was not just that, it was efficiency, and it was what I would call the German efficiency in a sense, like, because they are originally German, so, or whatever, but it was efficiency and it was non-waste, and basically filling a very important area in society, you know, helping an area in society that was needed. So, you know, it covered everything.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Now imagine those kinds of, you know, improvements, but on a whole system level that says no matter what, everyone gets to eat. That just becomes the new standard. Michael, I'm going to mute your microphone, and Sarah, you got your hand up.
Okay, I really like what you just said. You should write it down. What you just said. Everyone eats. It's like a great tagline, like everyone eats or something like that. You should come up with some kind of tagline, right? Everyone eats. Like it's so simple. Like everyone eats. Like that's it. No more. If people say, you know, they have some pushback, it's like, no, everyone. It's everyone. Like stop asking me. Yes, no matter what. But what about like pizza? I was thinking if you serve, well, I don't know how easy that is to deliver, but I was thinking if you serve pizza, then the big pizza chains would go vegan because then they would, you know, so I think this is going to cause companies to go vegan, even though I don't like Tyson and all those big ones. They're obviously investing in vegan for a reason because they know that what they're doing is going to end. I mean, we all know either we go vegan or we die, right? And people need to realize that. But yeah, I think some nutrients for a nation, somebody put, that's cute. But yeah, it's like, you know how like there was some kind of exercise thing? Didn't Michelle Obama do the exercise program where everybody was exercising and stuff like that? It's almost like that. It's like, because you know, like we had Make America Healthy Again but it's almost like Make the World Healthy Again or something like that. It has to be some kind of a really cute hashtag or tagline where it's like, you know, everybody, it's, you know, the most popular things are just one term, not term, but one word. Amazon, Google, Zoom, Instagram, Facebook. They're all like one word, right? It's like you have to come up with something super simple, something super catchy, so it just completely goes, like you say, trends all over the place. Okay, I'm going to step away and walk my beagle right now. So I'll be back. Just wanted to tell you.
Okay, one word could be food eyes. Let's food eyes. It means to make food abundant in that place, right? Anyway, if it needed to be one word. But I also like food healers.
Yeah, food healers, but everyone eats, everyone wins. Because if you think about it, once there's a new system in place, everyone does win. Even those who supply the food, the whole system, it works for everyone.
You could say, greet and eat.
What was it? What and eat?
Greet and eat.
Oh, greet and eat. Greet and eat. Or eat and greet.
Well, as there's a quiet moment, if you want, I could share you a little video of my niece Emma, or Ruby again, and she's just given a little talk about what she thinks about healthy eating. She's only 4, but you know.
And if it would be easier for you, James, feel free to send me the link if it's a link.
No, it's a personal video. Her mother or her grandmother recorded her while she was telling us what it was, what's the best healthy diet for us.
Ah, okay. Now,
Yeah.
okay. All right, carry on. Thanks.
Yeah, bear with me when I get it up there.
Yeah, take your time.
Scroll down by your feet. That's the stuff.
Oh yeah.
It just went right under your stool. It's like nuts, man.
He knows I'm a friend.
There's chipmunks running up your left.
Bloody hell, I'm have to find. Carry on anyway, they're talking a second because I'm terrible for looking at things. No, sorry, for some reason I can't seem to find it now with my photos. Carry on anyway, but talking either way because I'm terrible for these things. If I find it, I'll get back to it.
Sure. All good.
Password or anything, or it just comes up?
I think it'll just come
Okay.
up. Yeah.
I can share some like a really village from India, but it also has my friend. So if I don't want to record,
Okay, I'll pause recording.
yeah. Actually there is several types of the offering is called Dhanam. In my local language, they call Dhanam. And they say there are several types of Dhanam. Like, for example, being patient is one type of Dhanam. Like you're giving time donation. So that is one of, all this are considered as a virtue.
Yeah.
Being patient is considered because you're donating your time, listening. That's one of the thing. And offering food is offering blood or offering the wealth or offering land. So everything is like they call dhan. Or maybe that's how the donation word came, I think, because a lot of things have the, what do you call this, Indo-Aryan languages. Like donation, dan, you call dan. Dhanam. So donate or I don't know. So one of food is a thing like, and it's so nice to go and eat, and people do it with care too. Like sometimes just because free food, you will be like scared, but they take very precautious. People are like really determined, and people who are really passionate about and take, if they get a joy out doing that, and kind of a selfless state.
Wow, just beautiful. So cool.
Mara joined us, yeah.
Yeah, Mayra, welcome back.